Yes.
I'll go first for a certain map, then you'll give your opinion, then the next map you go first, and then I'll go after you. So that we like take turns coloring each other's opinions of the maps.
Okay, yes. And then it'll be suspenseful because if you're like, oh man, I hate this map. Like, already you were talking about the Lin map negatively, and I'm like, oh boy.
A lot of my viewers, I also think, don't like the Lin map. I think maybe I didn't like the Lin map because it was so hard for me at the time I tried. Anyway, we'll get to the Lin map.
Yeah, we'll get to the Lin. So,
okay.
Yeah, you go first. What do you enjoy about maps?
Okay, so
we establish parameters.
Tuxie's like, I refuse to leave that one for later. What I look for, I think, in a map is, I think one thing I look for is, does it teach you new mechanics well? Because I love Fire Emblem maps where they have really unique ways to teach you new mechanics. Whether it's like, oh, here's the first fog of war level, here's how it's supposed to like play out, or like here's enemy weaknesses, here's how to use ballistas, here's effective ways to use engaged weapons. If it does like a really fun job of like teaching you or rewarding you for like learning something new, I like that. I also like when they give you objectives that force you not to turtle. So
right,
like,
yeah.
when an enemy like gonna be like, I'm gonna take this treasure. I'm like, oh my god, I have to rush this map. Otherwise, I can just take as long as I want for like any given map.
Of course, yeah.
I think another thing I look for in a map is its replayability factor. I mean, I guess that's what everybody really looks for. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people look for in a map. Is the map just like fun to play? Is it like every time I play it, it's a little bit different? There's no like set way how to win this. Like something like Chapter 17, for example, I think has peak replayability. It is such a tough map. You have to switch up like your strategy every time. The game throws a lot at you, but you have enough resources to be able to like adequately get through that map. So I think that's like a really fun example of a map to play.
Yeah, and Engage itself, I find, is extremely replayable. Like, if you're into customizing unit builds and playing around with, like, different units, different, like, emblem rings on different units, like, yeah, I think that's the strength of the whole game itself.
Absolutely. Tuxedo said, are we solely basing it on map design, or does story context come into play? That is a great question. I think story context probably comes a little bit into play. Story map integration, I will give bonus points for. Something like, I think it's chapter 12 or 13 where they take away all your emblems. Excellent story map integration. I would give bonus for that.
Chapter 17 is another, I mean, I think we'll probably both agree on Chapter 17, but yeah, Chapter 17 is another good example of like like map design integration.
What do you look for?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I think that, yeah, like I agree with a lot of what you said, like side objectives, incentives to play faster. I also think hype story moments is what I would describe them as. Unfortunately, I don't love Engage's story, so there aren't a lot of those in this game. But I do like it when the battle taking place has a really important moment in the story behind it. And if it's executed well, of course. Sometimes Engage doesn't really execute it that well, despite it being like important moments in the story. I mean, because I'm a music composer, I think that having good music also gives bonus points for me. Also, novelty. Sorry, what'd you say?
Nothing important. When you said good music, my girlfriend's background started singing da-dun-dun,
No, not that song. I don't even like that song. I never liked it to begin with. It drives me crazy. And then also, the novelty of a map, like, it has, like, some maps in this game have, like, a one-and-done mechanic where you never see it again, and it's like, oh, cool, that was fun, that was an original thing that happened in that map, and then you never see it again. And then finally, because this is a celebration of the series, maps that are returning from previous games, because, I mean, I think we've both played a lot of Fire Emblem games, right?
Yeah.
So, maps that are returning from previous Fire Emblem games, I judge on, like, how well they represent the game they're from, and if the map they chose is like a good, like if the map is well put together, it's based on the game, does it showcase like mechanics from the game that it's from well, etc.? Or does it improve on a map that is terrible, and it's like not thinking of any map in particular here that we may have already talked about, but does it improve on the map and make it so much better than the map in the original game?
Great point. I didn't think about all the maps that we brought from previous games. Something like, I know in Thracia 776 they have Leaf's map, and it's supposed to show you how good warp is, because you can just warp skip that level and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you. Like how well it expands upon them. Like I like Ike's map. I think does a good job of that. We'll get to all the maps when they get to it. But I think there's a lot of nostalgia in so many of the engaged maps, and that I'm sure will also factor in. I'm reading in the comments. I like Echo's big field maps, so I'm not sure my input will be well on. I will still absolutely take your input. The stakes of the story at a point really makes me like a level. I agree with it. I think Engaged did do a good job with that for some of the levels. Even though I wasn't fully attached to the story, like, the story felt like silly, goofy. The 13th emblem, the fire emblem.
The story is really... it's a drag. It's a drag sometimes, unfortunately.
Where I felt like the map did line up well with what was happening in the story. So I was like, I'll give credit for that.
Yeah, chapter 10 and 11, which you were talking about, are definitely good story maps. Or at least, like, they tie into the story well, even if it's like, Vale stole our emblems and the Draconic Time Crystal when we weren't looking. Like, even if the, like, justification for them, like, stealing the emblems and then taking them and corrupting them to their side is pretty, it's pretty silly, let's describe it as. I still think that it was implemented well, yeah, but we'll get there. That's chapter 10, and we have other chapters to talk about before that one.
Sorry, you go first, go ahead.
Okay, so we are gonna start this in earnest, and I've got this might be a bit of a surprise, but I would put the first map in the bottom tier, and it's entirely because of story reasons. I would put it in Banished. I'm gonna suggest that it goes there because the beginning of the game isn't even real. It has nothing to do with the actual game. They show you all those cutscenes with everybody fighting with their emblems, and then Alir's running to the gates with Marth, and they pushed open the gate. They meet Sombron, and it's like in Letho's castle, but that never happens in the story. It's like, what's going on here? It's not like an Awakening flashback where it's like it's like displaying an event that is destined to happen in the future, but has already happened to one version of Robin. It's displaying an event that never happens, and I hate it. And the map itself isn't...
Our first impasse. So Cassidy in my chat says, I agree, I hate the opening. It makes no sense.
There's nothing going on in the map, too. Like, it's barren. It's just you and Sombron. You just gotta move Alir up to Sombron and kill him. It's basically as boring as, like, the Path of Radiance first map. Like, I feel like you can do better than having your first map just be like, walk unit up to boss, attack, kill boss.
Interesting.
On top of the fact that the story sucks.
I'm gonna put this in my C tier. I'm gonna put it, because I was like, it's a boring prologue map. It's supposed to show you unit, hit unit. It reminds me of the Awakening map. The one where you're like, but you're right, this one never happened. This is just an entire dream sequence. Okay, I feel like Banished to me is reserved for the maps that have like actively given us pain. So
this one gives me psychological pain because the story isn't real. Like in all of the other Fire Emblem flash forwards that they do in modern Fire Emblem, at least they are showing an event that is predestined to happen or has already happened. But this one, it doesn't even happen. Anyway, I mean, I'm certainly overreacting a little bit, but I can agree to put it in D tier if you want.
You put it in D? All right, excellent. We'll put it in D then. Because I was like, I personally for C, because I'm like, it's your really average prologue map. Because I remember in Fate's Conquest, he's like, or Fate's all of it, he's like, come at me, Cord.
Yeah.
Me. And you just walk up and hit them. In Awakening, first map, you're like, walk up and hit them. You're right that story-wise, this one made less sense. You never do this. Cassidy is saying, your guest is so right. Everything Guest is saying completely correct. Alright, we'll put in D. Tuxedo Man said, now, I do remember. Fires and Iridium say, I haven't played Engage. I'm along for the ride. Welcome, y'all.
Well, I mean, it's true as well that a lot of other Fire Emblems do the same thing. Like, I hadn't thought about the fact that, like, Awakening, Conquest, even Blazing Blade, Path of Radiance, they all do the same, like, click your unit, drag them up to the first enemy, kill the enemy. There, you've done the prologue. I just was so bothered by this one because it shows a cool event where you're all fighting with your emblems, and then it never actually happens in the story. Like, what was the point of that? Was it for the trailer? It was for the trailer, wasn't it?
Trailers. They get their cool scene of all the emblems like flying at you. Alright, should we go on to the second map?
Yeah, let's do it.
We're about to go over our next map. So chapter 1, it's Awake at Last. I'm looking at the map on screen right now. This is where they introduce your Jagan unit. You have a Lear, you have Clan and Fram in the bushes. I put this map in like D. I think it introduces the mechanics. It shows you how to hide in bushes. It's kind of boring. It's like not a very interesting map. It's just like, there are bandits. Here's how you fight. There's nothing like super special about it. I don't know if you agree with me on that, Sir Martin.
All right, let me paint you a picture here. It's the first it's the first actual map. You get in there, and the first thing you see is, oh God, Clan and Fram are in so much danger. You've got to protect them. And then all these enemies are blocking you, and on maddening mode, you don't have like guaranteed hit percent on them. I feel like this map immediately thrusts you into the danger of what it feels like to play maddening mode in Engage. I suppose after you've played it once and you're like, oh wait, Clan and Fram weren't actually in danger, were they?
Right, why I put it lower is I know they actually rig it so those two, your units can't die on this map. But I guess when you first play Maddening, you're not like, we don't know that as people. We're like, whoa, we have to save them. I didn't think this map was too challenging right off the bat, just because Vander, what I did like is Vander's not strong enough to kill a unit on his own. He like takes a swing at them and then you use a Lear to finish them off. I'm willing to put this higher than D if you like really like this as your first introduction to the map.
So, I mean, I'm not in love with it, but I do think that it is a pretty solid chapter 1. Like, you only get 2 units to control. You've got a lot of enemies to deal with. There's terrain that teaches you that you've got to hide in the bushes to, like, avoid people with bad hit rates. I guess it is lessened by the fact that Clan and Fram aren't actually in danger. I would say B or C. I mean, I put it in B in my own one, but I would be alright with C. So, what are we thinking, B or C for this one?
My viewers seem to be both weighing in with C.
Okay, so, Chapter 2, the one with Mommy and Sigurd. So, this is your first experience fighting against an emblem, and I think they do it really well. Like, unless you hover over to Lumera and check her stats, and then see, oh, when she engages, she gets 12 movement. Then you will have a major surprise when Mommy engages with Sigurd and then travels across the country to blast Vander. So I think it's a really fun way to safely introduce you to fighting emblems. Also, the setup beforehand kind of gives stakes to the fighting of the emblem. Like, you have to go through that mild battle before Mommy takes the stage with Sigurd, where you have to, like, take out a few other units first. So, like, you don't immediately get to fight Lumera and Sigurd. So there's, like, a little bit of stakes for when you actually do have to fight them. And then, yeah, she just comes at you from across the universe. And I think it's hilarious. And it's cool that even if she hits Vander at full strength, like if she gets her full movement bonus, then she doesn't kill him. She just takes him down to, like, 1 or 2 health. So they must have programmed it on Maddening to be like, okay, so he won't die, but boy, is it ever going to be a jump scare.
But barely. Is it a wait for this one? I like this as a tutorial map. I actually really like this map. This map, I feel like, introduces you to the emblems really well. It's your own emblem power via Marth. It's like, here's how you can move really fast, and you're like really using it here. And then she's like, she has Sigurd. She can move across the map and smack you. I feel like in this map on Maddening, I actually like, because Cavaliers were coming from. This map made my blood pressure go up, and that's what I attribute to a good map. So I'd be willing to put this one in B tier. Okay, good to see you. Welcome. We're doing a collaboration tier list.
I think I had it somewhere in A. Let me just check my preliminary list here. Whoopsie. I think I put it in A or B. I think it's so funny that she engages with Sigurd and then travels across the whole world to blast you. And it's your first experience. I mean, like, that's probably what happened to so many people on Engage on their first playthrough. Just having Sigurd come and destroy Vander. Because you're like, well, Vander can tank this, right? And then, oh, Sigurd has a Rider's Bane. So yeah, I mean, I would put it in A or B. I'm alright with B.
B?
It's not very challenging. Like, it's not super challenging. It's like the one mommy jump scare, and then that's it. Because after Lumera and Vander arrive, they're pretty easy to take down, as long as you've, like, cleared the field of everybody else. So yeah, I'd put it in B. Okay, so now it's your turn to start this one.
Alright. So chapter 3 is called Hostilities. And I remember while I was playing this live, Iridium, you said, oh look, you get 3 useless units. And it's true. In this chapter, Boucheron, Alfred, and NTA join you.
They're not useless on the chapter.
They're not useless on the chapter, but NTA is wildly outclassed by all critics, in my humble opinion. Tuxedo Man immediately says, I loved NTA. I'm sorry, Tuxedo Man. I'm sure NTA is useful.
NTA sucks. NTA is, like, good for maybe 2 or 3 chapters after this one, and then she's, like, bench city.
When NTA Luna, I think I like her, like, I'm a small girl, but I'm, like, really strong, like, gimmick. I want to pull off that gimmick. I'm just a small girl with no strength. On this chapter, what I like is you're immediately able to use your archer against these flying Pegasus. They're like, here's an archer, here's the units that are weak to this archer. They also introduce you to those little blue pools that fill up your engage meter. This chapter is, like, super fun to play. I think you, like, slowly move your units across a map, and you will, like, take down Pegasus as you go, and ultimately there's, like, a mean thief at the front. I feel like this is, like, C tier. I like that they give you more units to play with. I just feel like it's, like, a really straightforward map.
Yeah, it's probably the first, like, pretty straightforward mappy map where there's like, all right, you're kind of free to do what you want. But I think, okay, so I agree that it is, like, in the upper echelon. I think I like it more than you do. Because you get to use basically all the tools you're given, and it's pretty tense because this is the last map you don't have the Draconic Time Crystal for. So it's like a full-ass map, basically. It's the only really, like, full map that you have to do without the rewind, well, until you get it taken away from you later. But until then, it's like, yeah, the last map you got before rewinding, you get to use Boucheron for chain attacks and axe, or well, you also have Vander for axe damage. But Boucheron's like your only chain attack guy for a while, so you gotta use that on that map. Etier perfectly one-shots the birds. Like, she has, like, exact damage on them, which is, it feels so good to do that. And then you've got Alfred, who's useless. Alfred sucks.
Alfred. I tried to use him my first Manding run. I didn't realize how he'd fall off. I'm okay to put this map in B, if you are. You seem to like it more than I did. My original thing for it was, like, C, but I'm okay to put it in B, because I'm like, you know what, it does introduce chain attacks. It introduces archers. You're like, you have more units to play with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of... Oh yeah, I guess I was gonna say, like, I guess it does kind of lose a bit of tension at the end because the boss is so underwhelming. Like, the boss is just like another enemy unit. But it is also at a point, I don't know, I also like it because it's like, oh god, I just dropped the technology here. It's at a point in the story where you're like, this story might not be bad. Like, you're at a point, it's like, it's still kind of exciting, like, oh, what's gonna happen? You're going, like, Lumera is like fighting off this dark presence, and you're like fighting to get to her in time, and you're like, what's going on? It's, the mystery is unfurling. So there's that on your first playthrough, but I mean, yeah, it's obviously not, it's leading up to the world's longest death scene. That was the payoff.
Oh yeah, the mom died. I counted it. That scene goes on for like 10 minutes. I'm like, we don't know this mom. You cannot for that long. Fire Emblem keeps doing that. Then we don't
Yeah.
know any of these characters, and they're like, oh my god, did you see that? They died. I'm like, I don't know who they are.
So I guess I do really like this map just because it's like, it's
Okay.
very tightly designed. It's making you use basically all your resources because you don't have much at this point. So I mean, I had it in A originally just because I thought that it was really well put together. It's like a
Yeah.
nice little puzzle box map, but yeah, I could put it in B too. I would probably.
Okay, B. All of our things are ending in the average. What Em said about central limit theorem is coming true.
I'm gonna put this
Okay, I'm gonna take
at the top of B. Okay, so this one, I think I also rated pretty highly. Not only do you get Saline, who we were just talking about, but it's designed in. There's so many like things you have to pay attention to on maddening mode, or you will lose a unit for sure. Like if you don't put Louis on the fort to protect Chloe from the archers, Chloe will die for sure. And if you abandon Louis and don't have Chloe pick off the people that are fighting him, then Louis will die for sure. And if you don't warp Ragnarok in with Saline or use Sigurd Emblem, then both of them will probably die in the long term because there's like reinforcements. And you can't just like battle your way to save Louis and Chloe. You either have to like use Warp Ragnarok with Saline or use Vander and Sigurd or Alfred and Sigurd to like get in there and have another body to like soak up hits and save them. So I really like that about this map. And it's the first map where you get the Draconic Time Crystal, so you get to play around with like, oh, I have 10 of these things? So it allows you to like make the mistake of like, oh shit, I really needed to send Saline in there, and now Chloe and Louis are like definitely gonna die. So they allow you to like correct that mistake with the time crystal.
You and I have agreement on. I also love this map. As you see, point out Louis and Chloe power duo. We get two fantastic units right off the start of the bat. The other thing is they are placed near things that they're weak to.
Yes,
Chloe's placed near an archer. Louis placed near a mage. So a part of the puzzle of this map is, oh my god, I need to get these guys away from what they're weak to. I need to find a way to like protect them, and then involves a lot of manipulation with the forts. You also have all of your units stationed at the beginning of the map at the bottom left of the screen, and you're like, how do I split my army? Do I want to like split some to the right, some up top? Do I want to make them travel all together? And this map will take like a little bit longer to do. How do I get Louis and Chloe to the rest of me? There's so much to figure out on this map. I think the first time I tried it on Maddening, I split my forces and they got absolutely demolished. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, when I played this the first couple times, I mean I always either lost Louis or Chloe, just because it's like they get so surrounded if you don't send in Saline to help them, or send in like a Sigurd Emblem to help them.
Yeah, but I think like once you get a hang of the map and like the puzzle comes together, it feels like a really fun map to play. I would love to place this in A if you're also Team A.
Oh, I'm absolutely Team A. All right, we have our first agreed A tier, everyone. Get your pom-poms out. We fucking did it. Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't swear too much in this.
You're okay. I try not to swear, but I swear all the time. The only reason why is I work with kids. Like I teach kids how to play chess, and I'm like, if I swear on stream, I feel like it'll bleed into like my day-to-day.
Yeah.
For this map, I like that we get Saline. I like that we have like a very powerful mage we get to use, because this is way better than getting to use clan IMO. This map feels like, I like that there's also a treasure chest in the top left that kind of forces you to rush this map before the thief's taken. Overall though, I don't have I'm trying to think of maps I have really fond memories of playing. This is a map to me. Like it has a lot going on. It has tiles where you get plus a void. You have to like break into the big room. It's a good map. It's not a great map to me. Thoughts?
So just, I think I was talking about the previous map as the one you get Saline, but I mostly agree with what you're saying here on this one. Like, I feel like it's a exciting beginning, and then it's just kind of, we just kind of like have to go through the motions to get to the end of it. And also, it can be cheesed by just sending everyone into the treasure room and then breaking in through like the bottom or like the top left. Because you can just break in, and then because the boss is like right up there, so if you break in through the treasure vault there, it kind of just trivializes the entire thing, which is unfortunate. But it is, if you play it like the way that it wants you to play it, I think it's fun enough. I would say this was like a solid B or C. I would agree with either of those.
Also, kind of put this in B tier. I think B tier.
Okay, yeah, I also like the design of it. Like the design of Firenze Castle is really beautiful. The music is good in this map. I like the like more intense version of the Firenze theme that plays in this map. And it has that one-off boss who I thought was going to be like a reoccurring character, and then he just dies at the end of it. Zephyr just kills him. So Fog of War maps, I feel like in general are not my favorite. Although now that you have the ability to rewind, I feel like they're a little bit more justified. Like it doesn't feel quite so bad when you get sniped out of the mist when you have 10 rewinds. So it feels like it becomes a bit of a puzzle to like advance safely. And this particular map doesn't have too many gotcha moments. Like I know that there's archers hiding in like the middle part that can kill Chloe if you're not careful. And there's also some mages spotted around. So Louis isn't always the safest choice to advance with. But overall, I think it's a pretty harmless Fog of War map. I would say like B or C tier. It's fun. The fact that the boss moves in this one is pretty scary as well. I was like, oh god, there's a whole boss moving around in the mist that I've got to find.
I agree with that. I think this map is tough but fair, and that's what I like about it. It's a Fog of War. They give you all the tools you need. They give you Micaiah, which I really like the introduction of the Micaiah. I love Micaiah grinding units till they can promote. Awesome. They give us like a fun unit via Yunaka. It's a Fog of War where I feel like as long as you're using torches, as long as you're like putting your like highest defense units up ahead, you shouldn't get ganked. You feel like pretty strong. And I think, as you mentioned, the thing that really helps is with the Fog of War map, it's nice that we have rewinds. I think right off the back of Sacred Stones, their Fog of War map, and their first one feels so hard. An Iron Man. Here, I'm like, oh my god, with these rewinds, even if I get sniped out, I'll be like, okay, I like know where they are in future.
This one kind of does feel like that. Chapter 6 in Sacred Stones, where it's like an abandoned village, and there's like gorillas in the mist that are trying to kill you. But yes, I feel like they can get away with it a little more because you have the ability to rewind. So yeah, I would be all right with like B or C tier. B tier, it sounds like we're leaning towards.
What'd you say?
I said it sounds like we're leaning towards B tier for this one.
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna put it there. Okay, speaking of maps that'll probably go into B tier. This bridge map, I think it's fine. I think it's a little easy. You have a lot of tools at this point. You have Alchrist, you get Alchrist, who just absolutely destroys flying units. I think he's more accurate than Etier. He has better build than her, so he's just much more capable at taking out flying units. And he has Luna, so he can even sometimes dent other units as well. It's pretty easy to cheese Hortensia, the boss. Like, her emblem ability relies on like having all of the other people move at the same time as her. But you can get around that pretty easily. But it's not, I don't think it's bad. It's just, I think it's a little easy. I think you're a little overpowered with the tools you have. You also still have Etier to take out all the birds on this map. Yeah.
Here, I think we have not one, but now two archers on a map where your biggest boss is a Pegasus Knight. I don't think it's a bad map by any means. It's, I think, one of the more forgettable maps in Engage. The thing I give it major credit for is it introduces Alchrist to us, who is the best. I love Alchrist. And then it also has its retainers, Citrine and Lapis, which Tuxedo Man is a big fan of. I don't think I ever used either of these units. But what I like is I think this is like a simple map. It's easy to get through. They have like a couple blockades that you have to like position your units around, but easy enough map. I think they're giving us a break before they like really start plunging the player into like darkness in the next few maps.
Yes. Well, perhaps in the next, after the next map, because yeah, this part of the game, I mean, I think is the first time you're like, oh, is the difficulty falling off a little bit? Because yeah, this map and the next one and kind of the next one after that all felt like a little easy for me. But yeah, it's not. I don't think it's bad. It's pretty short. And the boss is not very threatening. Like, Hortensia is not terribly threatening. But yes, it does give us the Brodian retainers. I really like Lapis and Citrine. I've used Citrine in every single run of this game I've done. She's one of, I wouldn't say like top 5 in this game for just like strictly character based, but she would definitely be in the top 10 of my favorite characters in this game. So yeah, I would say high B or low C, or low B, high C would be what I'm thinking.
Low B? I'm the low B. I'm putting it right above the other Pegasus map where we got MTA.
Yeah. Okay, so next map.
I played this map. I played the game on Maddening for the very first time. I found it hard to guard the line in the back, but then once I realized that I needed to play some good defensive units up there, I need to bring Alcrest out to the Ballista to like shoot down these Pegasus Knights. The map isn't too bad as long as you guard the front. It's like a fun map to play, and I actually do like defend. I don't remember what it's called. Is it defend map where you don't want them to reach a certain point?
Yeah.
I actually really like maps like that because it provides a different objective. And near the final turns, you're trying to hold it over. It feels fun. You feel a little bit of that tension. Oh my god, I can't let somebody reach the back line here. Yeah,
for sure. I like defend maps too. I do like this map. I don't think I like it as much as you do, just because I think it's really exciting at the beginning for maybe 1 or 2 turns, and then you're like, oh wait, I could just aggro Ivy, and then just dogpile her immediately, because you can. Ivy isn't terribly threatening, and she has the leaf emblem, which sometimes makes things worse for her because she gets encumbered by the Master Lance.
They'll be Ivy, do you want to hold Leaf's really heavy and it's no? I never liked using Leaf's emblem for that very reason. They'd be oh, this, they'll give you a weapon and you're I don't want to hold this weapon will weigh me down.
Yeah. But I do like the beginning of it, and it's fun to have to, keep track of, there's probably enemies breaking into the ballista zone on both sides at different times, and you gotta manage that for a couple turns while you aggro Ivy early and then just blast her.
Want to put in B?
Yeah, I mean we can create a nice little tower of B tier here.
Got it.
Okay, next one. We've got the winter map where Hyacinth uses the Lin emblem to eliminate King Morian. This one, I think, is a slight step up in difficulty from the last 2. It gave me, when I did my no DLC Maddening run, it did give me a bit more pause than I was used to for this map. So I respect it for that. I like that you have options on how you want to take on the map. You could split up, you can send people all together in a ball of death. But if you do that, then I think that the other side continues to receive reinforcements, because the reinforcements come from Zelkov and what's his name? Samurai man, whose name I'm blanking on.
To my beloved,
Kagetsu.
Samurai man.
I can't remember his name. I've never really used him. I know that he's really good. I used him in my Engage Iron Man for about 3 chapters, and then he died because I overextended him. Yes, Kagetsu is his name. But yeah, so if you don't take them out, then they continue to spawn reinforcements, I believe. So it is incentivized to split up a little and take them both out. But then Ivy is the boss again, and I feel like Ivy does not make a very threatening boss, because she's slow and she doesn't have a heck of a lot of defense. So she's as long as you have someone who can tank her Thoron Or is it, does she have Thoron? Or is she, I don't remember what she has on this map, but like, it might be Elfire or Elthunder.
She's got Elfire.
So
Yeah.
I feel like if you can just have one unit that is capable of tanking Ivy on like enemy phase, then she's not a very threatening boss on like either of the times you fight her.
Gotcha. Hey, I think I might like this map a little bit more than you do, because I remember when I played it, when Zelkov and Kagetsu respectively take their forts, I thought that was really threatening. Like, all of a sudden, they have avoid bonuses and defense bonuses, and my units are already split. What I like about this map is it does feel like an uptick in the difficulty, because the two lackeys, quote unquote, that she has are pretty tough to defeat if you don't have the right tools, or you like split your units in an incorrect way. And the other thing I kind of like is there's an objective to rescue Jade, and you have to.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about Jade. Yeah, Jade is in this map.
Like, Louis is a much better armor knight. I know, so I'm always using Louis, but I don't want Jade to, like, not join our team. Like, I don't want Jade to die, so I have to, like, while I'm defeating Kagetsu and Zelkov, I'm having to, like, route to my units slowly into the middle of the map to be like, Jade, wait, please don't die, because if you leave her there for, like...
Yeah, she dies quick.
She'll explode. She gets doubled by, like, two guys that start around her.
Yeah, I actually didn't consider the rescuing Jade part. I've tried to use Jade twice in 2 different playthroughs, and I just cannot make her good. I just don't know what to do. I really like her as a character, but man, she just blows as a unit. I wish she could be good. I just don't know what to do to help her.
A little bit like if Louis had more resistance but less defense, which I kind of don't like. I like using Louis as like the ultimate beefy defense tank.
Yeah.
Like, in Maddening, when like they upgrade the enemy AI, like if you don't take any damage, they won't attack you. So I get Louis to the point where he's taking 1 to 2 damage just so they all come to him, and he uses his Iron Great Lance and he like them with it.
Okay, what if here's an idea. What if Jade is better than Louis because she actually takes damage from enemies, whereas Louis, they'll just bypass him because he's invincible. That's
Maddening metagaming.
Galaxy Brain Jade usage.
That would be a good Jade usage. I think I got my Louis to the point of like taking only like 1 to 2 damage. I had to find like a really good mix in there just so the enemies wouldn't bypass him. So it was always tough to keep him in like a level.
Yeah, okay.
Like a level that...
So, I mean, I definitely see now. I see the truth of rescuing Jade being a good side objective. And in Zelkov, I do remember Zelkov being dodgy as hell on his fort. So he is a threat for sure. It's like Zelkov's probably more of a threat than Ivy, although Ivy does get 2 life crystals, so she takes a bit more like planning to defeat. Yeah, I would again. We have a super solid streak of B tiers here. I would put this one in B as well.
Top B for me, because I was like, oh, this one's really fun. Our B is gonna like overlap and go downward, which is it's okay.
It's all right because we're about to get to some bangers here that'll ease up on the B tier.
So I'll start with chapter. So this is the one I was talking about earlier. This is an easy A tier for me. I like this one. In this map, Hortensia is able to is sitting at the top of this map. Goldberry and Rosado are flanking from 2 sides, and there's a mage cannon in the middle who's like shooting at you. And there's 2 treasures at top. And the way you have to approach Hortensia is so carefully and slowly from the sides, because she can entrap. I think she has an entrap staff. She can entrap your units, bring them close, and then just kill them. And when you think you're done with the level, there's a second half of the level when Hyacinth has a Lin Ring. He creates 4 copies of himself, and you fight him. Later, it was discovered you could stand right outside the door and shank him with Celica from afar, and he'll come to you. And you can kind of cheese the map that way. But I think the way this map is designed is such a fun play, especially on first go ahead. You get kind of surprised that there's a second half of this map, and it's the introduction to Hortensia, a character who I thought was going to be grading, but she ended up as one of my favorite characters in the game. I genuinely felt for her story. She felt like a 14-year-old girl lost in the middle of a war. What do you think, Sir Martin?
So I think that you do. I mean, you fight Hortensia once before on the bridge, but Yes, this is another map where she is very heavily featured. I do definitely agree, though. This map is a major step up in quality from the last ones. And it's very exciting. Like, it's the first time that you get the like, intense preparation music. And it's the first time where the game is like, hey, this is going to be a 2-map chapter where you won't be able to return to the Somniel in between, so you better prepare yourself. So there's like, it's giving you all of these flags even before you start the map that like, oh man, something's gonna happen here. Something different is gonna happen. Like, we're in for something else. And the way that it, I love the prep music being different. I love that it gets its own theme. This map theme doesn't appear anywhere else in the whole game, which is really cool. All of this music stuff that I care about that is like not the map design. But I love how it sets the tone. Also, like, before the map, Martha's like, Alir, if things go wrong, you gotta get out of there, man. You gotta get out of there. Like, there's so many red flags being put up everywhere that something bad's gonna happen. And then Morian gets zombified, and Diamant and Alcaris have to kill him. So this map actually, I think, earns genuine points for being like a cool story map. On top of, like what you were talking about, being like very tricky to breach Hortensia's defenses because she's like well protected on both sides. She has a lot of units that will aggro at the same time. If you think like, oh, I can just, like physical tank this. I was gonna say dodge tank, but I was just like, no, I'm just gonna tank this. Some units have killer weapons, like Rosado has a killer weapon. There's 2 mini bosses in Rosado and Goldmary. So yeah, lots happening in this map. I think it's cool that you have to fight Morian and Hyacinth. Hyacinth is so scary the first time you fight him. I was so afraid because you're fighting Lyn as well, and Lyn has ridiculous range. And you don't know when he's gonna... What?
Across the map, like your Pegasus tonight, I was like, oh
yeah.
Do that?
Yeah, and you don't know when he's gonna fire too. It's scary because if you enter, because you're like, okay, we've dealt with Hortensia, we've dealt with Morian, now we got to deal with Hyacinth, and then you're like, okay, well, I'll just inch my defensive unit like 1 tile like into Hyacinth's range, and then he's not moving, he's not doing anything. So you're like, when's he gonna do his thing? So you don't even know what he's planning. It really feels like he has a mind of his own the first time you do it, which I think is cool. I do think that once you breach Hortensia's defenses and sort of take the first half of the map, that it is a little easier, like on repeat playthroughs, like you were talking about. It's pretty easy to cheese Hyacinth once you know what he's capable of. But on a first playthrough, I really do love that it has so much gravitas in the narrative. There's new music, there's new like prep music even, and you're fighting named bosses, you're fighting emblems. You're fighting the Byleth emblem for the first time. It's a lot of cool stuff happening. Hortensia can fucking, excuse my language, get a divine pulse with her terrible accuracy Lewin lance when she has the Byleth emblem and just murk your horse units immediately. So I would say this is an easy A tier for me.
Like, it's an easy A tier for me. I would put it actually above the Fear and A map.
Yeah, I would too.
Them use the emblems very effectively. I'll probably say this again for chapter 17, but seeing them use it, I'm like, oh, you missed me, you hit me, and then I'm like, I can't wait to get that on one of my units. My Louis hit rate was like 30s to 40s, having Divine Pulse or putting Byleth on him, boom, made him a god. So it's
that's
cool
interesting.
On
Byleth and Louis.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, I was thinking like, never mind. I can't remember what I was going to say. It was going to be something to do with emblems, but yeah, I think you've said it all. Easy A tier, and now here we are at, I would say, Chapter 11 is the first S tier map for me. I'm just going to say it. I think it's like the first map that is like, okay, this is Fire Emblem Engage. We're doing something different this time. Like, we're gonna, this is the first time in any of the games where you have a Divine Pulse where you lose it. Where story-wise, it really sort of falls off a cliff here. But I think that Chapter 11 is so cool for the fact that it takes away all of your resources. It takes away your emblems. If anyone died in the previous chapter, you don't get to replace them. So you can't go back to the Somniel. You can't restock anything. You can't go to the market. You're like naked and afraid. And you have all 4 hounds chasing you. You have Vale with 3 revival crystals. You have those big lizard, dog, bear things you see for the first time. You're like, what are those?
I call them tubby dragons.
What do you call them?
Little tubby dragons.
Tubby dragons. They are very tubby. They're cute in a way.
Yeah.
I think, I really like Chapter 11. It scares me. Every time I do it, I'm afraid of it. And the fact that the emblems keep replacing themselves when you take them out, and you're like, oh god, they just keep coming. The Roy emblem is so annoying every time he comes to another unit, and you're like, well, I gotta kill this guy twice.
Bonk him twice, yeah. I right off the bat was like, this is a meta-defining map. I love that the game truly makes you, it reflects the hopelessness you feel from the cutscene. So I think story, gameplay, integration-wise, excellent. They take away iconic crystals, they take away all your emblems, and you're left thinking on this map, do I even have the resources to make it to the end of this map? And while you're on this map, you turtle it slowly. If you mess up, you have to start the whole level over, which I actually think, on first playthrough especially, you're like, whoa, this is a whole new experience. This game is really experimenting with how it's making me feel. And when you do think things are hopeless when you're near the bottom of the map, right when you cross a certain threshold, units come in to help you. They're
right.
Like, we are here to save the day.
I didn't even mention that. Yeah, then you get, and then it's just like in real life when the franchise was at its lowest point, and then Lucina extended her hand and was like, engage with me. It's time to save the franchise. And then Lucina comes in in your darkest moment, and you're like, oh, it's gonna be okay. Lucina's here. And then Lucina's such a broken emblem. Lynn and Lucina are both so incredibly good.
Lynn is one of the most useful emblems, IMO. If I ever do an emblem tier list, S+.
Yeah, I think Lynn is extremely useful, no DLC, but then once the DLC gets introduced, she loses a bit of her niche, but yeah, she's still incredibly good.
Yeah.
So I would put this one in S for sure, yeah. Also, the music, it also has its own music, and I've seen so many Iron Mans die on this chapter. It's tough, it's really scary. I think it's hilarious. Imagine if you were a Switch-only Fire Emblem player, and you've always you've played through 3 houses, and then you play Engage up to Chapter 10, and then for the first time in your whole Fire Emblem career, the bottom gets pulled out from underneath you, and you don't have rewind anymore. I wonder what that would feel like to someone.
We said about the music, they play such a sad, it's such a sad track in the background. You're like, oh my god, where's my hope?
I bet I bet that people let characters die all the time on this map, because it's you get 2/3 of the way through the map, and then somebody dies, and you're like, oh, I can't go back, but I don't want to save them. Oh, it's just Clan. He can die. Alright, well, we are in agreement that this was our first S tier. Huzzah. And now, onto this one, onto the next one. Did I start the last one? I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm doing evens and you're doing odds. Alright, so this map, every game has its desert map. And all this one's slow.
Yeah.
A lot of your units have restricted movement on this map. In order to, one thing I do kind of like about this map is that they give you a side objective. You need to protect the civilians on the other side. It's a standard desert map. It shows you can't move through certain areas. There are units that magic units, flying units are going to be a little bit more helpful here. You do get introduced to, what's the name of the region? The one that's
Solm.
Solm. It does have good story gameplay integration with Solm. Solm feels like a very vibrant, deserty type of thing. I love the music. I actually really like the music they play in this map. So much so that when I played
Yeah, I remember.
I used this
In your Iron
So,
Man, the Sacred Stones desert map was non-stop Swift Sands, or whatever the song is called.
dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Alright, what do you have to say for this map?
I mean, this one is like Resident Sleeper for me. I think this one's so boring. And it takes so long to end, like, because reinforcements, because it's a route map with reinforcements on a desert chapter. Why would they combine those things together? It drags it out so much. Like, I just have vivid memories of, like, having one enemy left, and then I'm like, okay, if I can kill this enemy, I can finish the chapter. And then, like, Bonet misses a 65, and then 5 more enemies appear from the other side of the map, which means the chapter's now going to be, like, 4 more turns.
Route map.
Yeah, it's
Very
a, like,
slick.
route map, desert map. Ugh. I mean, I would put this in D tier.
In D tier, I would agree with that, actually. I would agree. I would say it's above the prologue level, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I sometimes don't like sometimes I feel like they make the wrong maps route maps. This should have been a boss kill map, I think.
Yeah, like the next one that's coming up.
Oh, alright, let me switch to the next one. You begin off for this one.
Okay, so this is the other somewhat early game. I guess we're now in the mid game, Fog of War map. I think this one is, it always gives me trouble. Like, I always am using a lot of rewinds for this one, probably just because I am so reckless with my placement of my flyers, and there are so many archers waiting to kill your flyers in this map, and they are very unforgiving. So you basically always have to be on the look. Like, I usually have Ivy go south to try, like, because you know how you can split up to, because there's a very valuable, I think it's a rescue staff that you can get from the village at the far south. And I'm pretty sure it's a rescue staff. Do you have the intel on that? Do you know?
Let me see right now if it is a okay, the rescue staff is this it's the village at the far bottom left.
Yeah,
That's the
so
rescue
yeah,
staff.
very far south, and the very bottom left. Yeah, it's very valuable to get the rescue staff at this point in the game. And so I always overextend when I'm trying to get there fast, and then I'm always burning rewinds. I think it's like, I would describe it as, like, it's a good map, but it has no chill. Like, the fact that it's Fog of War, the fact that there's bosses, again, that move into the Fog of War and you don't know where they are is so scary. Like, you have a rough idea. And this is also the map that introduces, like, a ton of those wolf units, who are, like, maybe the most annoying enemy in the game, I think.
Oh, because they drop stats.
Like,
Yeah, I would agree with your, like, general assessment of this map.
and then also,
I
just
like-
one more thing,
Sorry.
just like the top of the map too has tons of flying reinforcements coming in all the time that are really fast. That'll, like, kill Panette easily if you're not careful with her, because she joins on this map. Also, Panette is my favorite character in the game, so this is automatically slightly boosted because Panette joins in this map. But yeah, danger from the top with the flying units in the Fog of War, danger from the bottom because you gotta rush to get that rescue staff, and there's tons of those wolf enemies, there's tons of snipers in the mist waiting for you to overextend your flying units. So I think it's really hard, but it does provide a really solid challenge that is mostly fair, I would say.
I think it's, like, hard in a fun way. For the flyers, what I always do is I always take, like, Chloe and Ivy and I strand them out in the middle of the ocean. I'm like, okay, you guys fight the flyers. I guess this map gives us so many parallel objectives. They're like, here's how you break boxes. So your new job, break boxes and make your way, like, tetchy and touchy.
I forget that it's also like a demolition tutorial.
Yeah, they give you, like, a demolition tutorial. They give you the Ike emblem. And so you're going to want to carve some of your units to go to the south. I've never, I think, done this map the way it's fully intended. At some point, somewhere in the middle of the map, I create a choke point, and I'm like, Techi and Tachi are going to come to me. But always, I think this map is really fun to play, just because, like, you're fending off so many enemies inside the dark. But I think because they give you 3 really solid units on this map, you have just enough firepower to be able to hold off like everyone at once. And it feels like such a relief when Techi and Tachi finally go down.
So you were waiting for them to like head into the mist to, I guess.
I wait for them to come to me.
I try to, I always try to like get to a place where I'm like, okay, if they move now, because yeah, they get impatient. They're like, okay, we're just gonna move. But if they move while I'm like not yet at them, I'm like so afraid because they are so dangerous if you aren't prepared for them. One of them has a brave axe and the other has a killer axe, I think. So
Yes.
they're like
dangerous.
super dangerous if you aren't prepared for them, and they both have one revival crystal, I think. So yeah, you gotta be prepared for them, but you also have your. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Player phase rather than enemy phase, because they'll hit you.
Oh yeah, you gotta player phase them, or else or you could player phase the one who has a killer axe, because if you have like a really tanky unit, then they can just absorb the brave axe. But yeah, killer axe guy is super dangerous on enemy phase.
I think for the brave axe, I let my Louis get quadded, but he's at like a bulk that he could take it. So I'm like, as long as he can do that, we're good in this universe.
Yeah.
The one other thing I like about this map is this is like a weird design thing that they chose, and I feel like they're kind of like it's a like haha at the player's expense. The third village, the Tachi Techi, whatever, they destroy it within the first turn.
Right.
See people like orb their units to be all the way to the other side of the map for like this village right here. I'm like showing the people who are watching from my screen. All in there is an elixir, and you can
Wait, you can get to it?
Apparently, I've watched someone on YouTube get to it. It needs like specific DLC items. You have to have like Sigurd's ability where you like move. You have to like staff someone to the other side. It's like a whole song and dance sequence. You get someone all the way.
And it's an elixir? I'm surprised that they coded it at all to be an elixir.
You should put boots in there or something.
You should put the Fire Emblem in there. Something incredible.
The 13th emblem. I can't imagine if somebody takes all the effort to move their like unit all the way to the other side and they get nothing out of it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that it's only the insanely dedicated that would ever attempt to do that anyway. So, I mean, it's funny that they have it as an elixir at all. I imagine they were like, well, we can't make it anything too valuable, otherwise people will feel like they're missing out.
Right, get that. I definitely get that from like a design standpoint. They're like, we can't make it like a stat booster, or people will like seriously take hours trying to get it.
So, what do you think for tiering of this one? It's tough for me because I feel like I don't want to put a Fog of War chapter in A, but I do like a lot of things about it. But it's really.
For this, it's a really fun Fog of War chapter, and I don't normally say that about Fog of War chapters.
It is nice that there are no lance units coming from the north, so that you can always rely on like, okay, well, as long as I have a sword unit up there, then I can be covered at all times. So yeah, they do give you some leeway as to they're fair with their the weapons that they give the birds that are coming in from the north. Yeah, it's really tough, but yeah, it's really rewarding to play well, I think. So perhaps we will put it in A tier.
I'm not put like bottom A tier.
Yeah, I'll put it at the bottom of A tier as well. Okay, so who started last time?
Even numbers. So chapter 14 is Battle for Soul. I like this level. You split two of your armies to go two separate sides. There's chests at the top, so you've got a good timed objective. There is so much going on in this map. When they start bringing reinforcements from the back, you really start to feel that pressure. I think near the middle of the map, it feels a little bit like a slog. Like the map begins to slow down a little bit. You refill all of your units' engage meters. It is a little bit of a break before you finally approach the boss. I just feel like your units are covering a lot of movement around the middle part of the map. So I would like, this is like a B-ish tier map for me, because I'm like, there's a lot going on. There's some slow parts, and there's some really exciting parts where they're trying to beat the thieves, the treasure chests, and those treasures are like boots, radiant bow, like Dragon Slayer. So B map for me.
I think that it's like, if I remember correctly, is this the one where one of the sides of the treasure is really good and the other one is like, oh, it might be a different one, but I seem to recall, yeah, one's like boots, radiant bow, and the other one's like, oh, silver sword, hooray. It might be a different one, or maybe like, yeah.
Items right now, one side, I think I even forwent, whatever, one side, because one side was the silver spirit, the worm slayer, and the other side was boots and the radiant bow.
Yeah. So, I think the best thing about this chapter is the design of Solm Palace. Like, it's such a beautiful building when you're walking around afterwards, but of course that doesn't really reflect on the map design. I think that this chapter starts off pretty exciting. Like, you have a lot of options at the beginning. You're like, okay, well, I could do it normally where I send units on both sides, or I could just go after the one side that has really valuable items and the other side has less exciting items. And then you could like warp your Ike user up over the river and into the palace early so that they could demolish a bunch of enemies there. I think that the difficulty falls off pretty quickly on this map. Like, I remember just having a lot of time where I'm just like, okay, well, I've cleared all the units pretty early. Now I'm just moving everybody one by one up the map. And they give you so many engage pools that it's like way overkill how many engage pools they give you before you have to fight. And I mean, I guess it's probably because you have to fight like Zephyr, Mavier, Madeline, and Hortensia at the end. So it is like quite a boss gauntlet.
Yeah, right, like 8 engage pools is a lot of engage pools. They're like, just in case you use everything, we're letting you like refill it up.
This map is also in Steel Sword Hell, or I guess Steel Weapon Hell, where you have to rewind sometimes because every enemy has 5% crit on you because they're all using steel weapons. I lost Panette in the Iron Man that I did because she got crit by like a 4% chance on a steel weapon. So that's how I remember this chapter. I think that, yeah, it's like a little easy. I think it's like really beautiful design of the building. And there is quite a boss gauntlet at the end, but because they give you so many emblem pools, that the boss gauntlet is kind of trivialized. Like, Madeline, or what's her name? Marnie just sucks every time you fight her. Like, she's so easy. She's so slow.
Yeah.
As if you like, basically, as long as you can get her alone with a magic unit, she's so dead. And like, Mavier is like not exactly difficult either. Celestia is a little threatening just because she can fly everywhere, or Zephyr, Celestia is her counterpart. Zephyr can fly, she has huge range, so she's probably the most threatening. But yeah, Mavier and Marnie are like just like Team Rocket. You have to fight them so many times, and they're not terribly difficult anytime you fight them. Except Mavier's last time you fight him, where he's got Makai and he's warping enemies at you. But here in chapter 15, I don't think Mavier and Madeline are very threatening at all. Especially because you get so many engage pools before you fight them.
First map where we see this gauntlet of villains, but like, the reason I don't remember is they're not that threatening yet. I think they should have used these guys as bosses far less than they actually.
Oh yeah.
I feel like
oh god, dude.
Thinking, oh come on, Zephyr again.
That's why it feels like they're Team Rocket, because you just fight them so many times and they're never terribly threatening.
Hubert's line, I can't go now. What's Hubert's famous line?
I can't fall here. I must retreat.
You got it. Yeah, you got it. I think this map is a little front-loaded with its difficulty. Like, I think it's really fun when you're fighting off reinforcements from the back and things are coming from the front, and then it drops off. I would put it in B if you feel like it's like a B tier.
I would put it in B tier. It's like, it's pretty alright. I would put it low B. Because the enemies, I mean, I feel like at this point, you are starting to get pretty powerful. Now you have the Ike emblem, who is exceptionally useful. And Ike is really good on this map in particular, because you can just warp him and, I don't know, Panette in to to dispatch of a bunch of enemies early, and they're like mostly physical enemies. At the place where you're warping them, so you're like pretty safe unless you get chain attacked to death. But I think it worked out for me whenever I try that. I'm gonna put it low B here.
I also put it B. What do you say actually maybe place it a little bit higher in B, where you're like, Soul Palace looks banging. Like, sometimes set design or the design of a level, how it looks.
I love the big globe that's hanging in the center in the throne room of Stone Palace. It's so beautiful. Best part about the map. Okay, and now we get to this map, which sucks. This one...
Let me see what this is.
This is the...
What is the dance?
This is the Dancer Maze map with Miasma.
Okay.
I would put this handily in D tier, I think. It's like... just really boring, and there's not a lot you can do to make it go by faster. You have to get Seedall to the exit, so you can only go as fast as he can run. And there's like winding corridors. There's one part of the map that I think is exciting, and that's when you like breach the biggest room about 3/4 of the way through, and there's like just an absolute pant load of miasma. And there's a lot of enemies that have overlapping ranges, and you have to figure out how to deal with them. I think that's the only part of the map that's like exciting, because the rest of it is just like slowly making your way through this like corridors of enemies that are not terribly threatening to deal with. And I don't think you can really do too much to accelerate the process. And I just find myself dreading every time I have to do this map, not because of its difficulty, but because it's boring. The end.
I do partially agree with you. One thing I did like is Seedall was a great reference to Azura. Like his starting dancing, the dancer all alone in the ruins. I'm like, oh, it's very reminiscent of Azura.
Very gray waves.
A pain. Like miasma, then you kind of have to learn. I should be using Corian to get rid of these miasma tiles, or I should be using like Roy to get rid of the miasma tiles. Whatever gets rid of them really effectively is something that's helpful. But you're right. I think the first room, the second room, the third room, every room up till the last room is you're slowly tunneling your units all the way to the end. The last room is one that I think genuinely feels really fun to play. Not the last room, the one right before that.
Yeah, the second last room. I do think that is where the map gets exciting. It just takes like 45 minutes to get exciting.
Yeah, I think there's only one room that is like truly very, very exciting. And that map, I can feel my heart, at that part of the map, I feel my heart racing. But one chunk of a map doth not make a good map. I'm actually willing to place this in like high D tier or low C tier.
I would suggest D tier personally. That's where I have it on my list.
You can place it in D tier.
I'm gonna put it above the intro map. Actually, do I want to put it above the intro map? I would rather do the intro map than this map, but the intro map, the story of it offends me so much.
Alright, I'm gonna look at number 16. This map, I found it very difficult. I think the first time I played Maddening Engage, this was a map that actually nearly made me, because I went in blind and played Maddening Engage. This is very nearly actually made me want to quit playing Maddening and go down to hard. I think once you have like a better understanding of how the mechanics in this map work, it's good. See, I'm a little bit of an impatient person, so the fact that the river comes in and then the river lowers and it takes turns to do so is it's not fun, or I don't like that my units have to wait, or I have to be really cognizant of, oh my god, the river has now just divided my units. And there's a lot of units coming in from the back to flank you. But I think what I like with the difficulty of this map is once you feel like you understand it, you feel very good while playing it. I left Louis in my second playthrough on the beach to just beat up whatever came his way. I made my units make their way forward. I tried to memorize when is the water gonna come up? When is the water gonna come down? I just think it takes a lot of expertise to play this map.
Yeah. It is definitely a tricky one on your first. Even like, as I'm also impatient. I'm like, I get into trouble on this map because I like rush too much. I remember on my Iron Man, I almost lost the run because Alir got like stranded in the water, like fighting Mavier, and like Alir versus Mavier in a 1v1 is not a very exciting proposition. So yeah, it is very punishing if you get impatient and try to like don't be the ocean's gray waves and move ahead at your own pace. Also, this map has the worst village I think in the whole game, where you get like, I don't even remember what it is, but I never save the village on the top right anymore because I don't even remember what the item is, but it's useless, and I just ignore it now on every subsequent playthrough.
Right now, it looks like it's a recover staff, which is something you can buy, I think, at this point in the game at the store. And it's really out of your way, too. So
Yeah, you have to overextend like crazy to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reinforcements, too. And the center island, once the tide comes in and the reinforcements are coming at you from all angles, it turns into like an absolute battleground. I remember on my most recent maddening playthrough being stuck on the center island while I was being like bombarded by reinforcements from behind, and it was quite tense. And then, I mean, unfortunately, guess who the boss is again, which I think starts to make maps lose points more and more as it happens more and more.
Mavier.
It's our good friends Marnie and Mavier. And Marnie is just as easy as ever to destroy. I don't even think she has. Does she have Roy at this point? Like, she might have Roy now, so like she takes a bit more effort.
I just see Roy over here. I don't think she has Roy.
No, she doesn't have Roy yet. Yeah, so then she's so easy. She becomes definitely a bit more of a threat once she gets Roy because she is quite tanky. And each one of her revival crystals has to be taken into account. It's like, oh, well, Roy's going to get her down to 1 health, and then someone else has to take her out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't dislike this map. It is quite technical. Like, and sometimes it's frustrating because you want to play it fast, but it won't let you because the tide has come in. So I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm somewhere between B and C. I would rate this. I don't really.
Hello?
Pardon?
Imagine you played it in an Iron Man and your Alir got like when my units get stranded from the rest of them and I just can't move them over the water, I'm like, oh, I guess that's where they are. I do like I do like that it's a kill boss map rather than a route map.
Oh god, yeah. If this was a route map, it would be D tier for sure.
You said C?
Oh, I'm not sure between B and C. I was just saying that if it were a route map, it would be D for sure, but it's not, thankfully. So, yeah, okay, well, our B tier grows. Let's see. Let's put it, because it is challenging, and so we must respect it for that.
I respect it for its challenge. Oh my god, you get to start.
Oh my god,
one of, if not the best map in the entire
it's the
game.
best map in the game. This is my favorite map in the game. And I'm sure that's a pretty common opinion. It's a rather basic opinion. I'm putting it straight at the top of S tier for my.
Straight at the top of S tier too. I was like, I know we're probably gonna be in agreement about this one.
This map fucks.
So much say about the map.
This map fucks. It's like so exciting. It's very Engage. It's another moment where Engage is like, all right, you're playing Fire Emblem Engage now. This can't happen in any other map. It's a 6 versus 6 Emblem smackdown. The world is on fire. There's tubby lizards. There's Mavier and Marnie are there again right after the last chapter. But now they have emblems, so there's at least something new about them. Zephyia can cover the whole goddamn map with her Sigurd emblem, so she's so threatening. You don't want to aggro her early because she's very threatening. And I think that I don't know if aggroing Zephyia aggroes Veil as well, but once like Veil gets aggroed, then like the whole frickin' battalion comes, and it's so threatening. So yeah, super cool. Oh, Hyacinth is here too for some reason. You get a chance for Ivy and Hyacinth to have some really good dialogue. Yeah, great stuff. I don't even know how, I mean, we both know it's such a great map.
Yeah, what I really like about this map is, Tuxedo Man also mentioned, it's an even balance of power. It feels like the playing field is very level. We got 6 emblems, they got 6 emblems on their side. And then, like, what I usually do in this map is I try to take out Celica first and then start heading left. But once you start aggroing one boss, when you're all of a sudden fighting maybe
it's so scary.
Like 5 bosses at once, it's so scary. The music intensifies.
Oh, the music!
Fire.
I love the music in this map too. And you get the intense prep music again, comes back, and you're like, oh, shit's about to get real again, is it? The tough prep music comes back. The game, this map theme is exclusive to this map. They knew they had a banger on their hands. And this map is the Fire Emblem theme. Like, the Fire Emblem theme is worked into the theme of this map, but in like minor keys, so it's cool in that way. It's like a little, it's all the emblems fighting each other. The drama.
I like the story gameplay integration where, since everything's on fire and it's Furinae, like, you've seen this place when it looks all lush and green, and now to see it in a state of devastation while you're like fighting on this map, I think makes it feel very intense. I also, especially when you're at the end with the bosses, trying to get like Zephia to not kill every single one of your units at once is like... Yeah,
because Zephia has like planetary range. And fortunately though, I mean, I think that you can sort of... I'm pretty sure she always opts to use her 3 range, which is like Thoron, so she can't double anybody. But she can basically cripple someone, and then if they're around another enemy of any kind, they're dead. So yeah, like, she'll pick someone to blast with Thoron, and then whoever else is in their range will kill them. So yeah, Zephia is super threatening.
Like, I think what I ended up having to do is I had to baby cage her. I'm like, alright, I'm gonna stand on the side of the map, you come to me, trap behind all my units, and then we just slowly, like, beat her to death with, like, books. Excaliburs.
Well, she doesn't even get affected by wind magic, because she's a boss.
I just had to, like, slowly take her down with everything I had. While worrying about the other bosses, Vale, I felt like is very threatening on this map, actually.
Yeah.
When she does Mark big smash thing, I'm like, with 9 hits, that can take down most, if not all of my units, and she can't miss with that attack, too, so I have to get to her first.
Yeah, and she's like an insta-kill on a Leer. You have to like keep a Leer away from her at all costs.
Alright, so
good stuff.
Moving on to chapter 18?
Yes. So what do you think about chapter 18?
This is...
Boat map.
God, every game is a pirate ship level.
It's boat map time.
It's boat map time. I think that I remember this map being pretty tricky. Enemies coming at you from like all sides. You want to recruit Lyndon before either Lyndon kills himself on you, or like Lyndon it gets too late to recruit him. And then there's also treasure. There's a multitude of different objectives you can focus on in this map, and it's best to try not getting bogged down in any one side of the ship. Like, if you spend too long on the left side of the ship, I think you get bogged down by reinforcements. So you gotta be fast in there, get the treasure, fast out to the other side, recruit Lyndon, and then defeat Abine? I don't know how her name is pronounced here. I think overall it's a pretty fun map. It keeps you on your toes and it keeps you moving, I think.
Yeah, I really like this map. I think I would probably put it in A tier. I think that there's so much going on. Like, it's difficult for sure. Like, you have to keep track of both sides of the boat at the same time, as you also have to keep track of the birds coming in from the north and the south. And those are fast, goddamn birds at this point. Like, they will double so many of your characters. They'll double your mages, who are good for dealing with, like, they can do big damage to the Draco Knights and the what do you call them? What are they? They're like hippogriffs. Griffin Riders. They can do, like, your mages and sages, well, I guess they're all sages at this point. They can do big damage to the Wyvern Riders and Hippogriffs, but the Wyvern Riders and Hippogriffs will kill your mages as well. And it's scary because your mages may not even be accurate enough to, like, reliably hit them. So sometimes you have to rely on archery, but then all these guys have, like, they're all super fast, so they can double your archers, and of course your archers can't counterattack on enemy phase. So they're
Really high void, I think. That's
yeah,
the
they're
scary
super
part.
dodgy, and oh boy, do they love to use those goddamn dodgy birds in the DLC maps. Holy shit! But that's for another time. For now, they're using them a moderate and respectable amount. And yeah, I like that there's a treasure chest with a speed wing in it. Like, who doesn't want to get a speed wing? You gotta try to get the speed wing.
That loot will give you. I agree with that. You feel very incentivized to go and grab this speed. Although I think most people wouldn't even engage with the left side of the map. They would go straight to the right side and kill Abime had a speed wing not been placed in the treasure chest at the top left.
Yeah, for sure. And also you have a mage cannoneer who's blasting you. Well, he's not actually a mage cannoneer. It's like a mage on a cannon, but they are like every turn blasting you with pretty powerful magic. So that's an incentive to go over there and kill that guy too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that it has so much going on. You get to use those flame cannons for yourself too, which is fun. You got to think about which. Even you start with one too. So you got to like figure out where's the best place to shoot at the beginning. And also, as you said, Lyndon is trying so hard to kill himself on your units. You're like, no, Lyndon, don't like, don't attack Panette at 2 range. You will die.
I remember regarding the right, I even tried to use my units with like 1 range just so Lyndon would be able to safely attack them. Like normally I have like a hand axe or something on Louis or something that's 2 range, and here I'm like, okay, well Lyndon dies if he attacks Louis, so now Louis got to hold like something else.
Yeah, I think if he does have Thor on, so like he at least like he'll get himself into trouble, but I mean as long as he doesn't fight someone with a longbow, then he should be okay.
Looking at this map right now, I like how you have to basically create 2 separate sets of choke points. If you choose not to flood the other sides, you have like 2-2, 2-2 at these at the entranceway to both of the ships, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, the first couple turns of this map are like crazy. There's so much happening in the first couple turns.
Yeah. I'm high B. Would you also think it's like a high B map?
I would put it in A tier myself, but what would you like? What do you think that drags it down to B?
I guess I like maps really like stand out to me and sort of are like not game defining, or like what I think of when I think of this game. I think that this is a good map. I think it suffers from coming after the strongest contender. I think like coming after chapter 17, you're like, oh, this is a good map, but I think it colors my perception of this map a little bit when I'm like actively playing it, because I'm like, this is a good map, but it came after the best map in the game.
I mean, like, obviously I don't think it's as good as chapter 17, but yeah, I mean, this is where I think that the hits start to roll, where it's like, oh, like, interesting map after interesting map after interesting map. But yeah,
I would put it.
would you? I mean, I would put it low A, high B. You're all right with high? I mean, personally, I would put it in A. But if you really want to put it in B, we can do that.
I'm down to put it in B. There are other maps I feel like I'm personally more A incentivized for, but I'm putting it right at the top of my B.
All right, I think I will as well. It's chapter 19. All right. I think this map is another very interesting, very difficult map. This is, I think, one of the hardest maps in the game. Mavier just ruins my life every time I try this map because of his warp staff utility. Like, he sends his horse boys to the darndest places, and they just always kill my squishy units, and I have to always be cognizant of where he could warp all of his friends. And it's really unique. You know, I was talking about like uniqueness being a selling point for like if I like a map more. I think that this is super unique to have a boss constantly like warping 2 guys at you to wherever you can be. So it's not like reinforcements because he's actually using the people on the map. So it's not like a canter where he just continues to make new ones all the time. He's actually using units at his disposal to like ruin your day, and I think it really adds tension to the map. And you can block him from doing that by putting fire up so that his horses can't get to you in time. Like if you either use the Corrin emblem, Vein of Flame, or using the flame cannons on the boat, you can block his horses from being able to just crush your little squishy healers.
My best friend. All I did was I took the middle and I'm like, fire, fire. Nobody's coming past you. Fire, fire. I have a lot to say about this map. I think it's a very interesting design. The entire map is filled with miasma. They tell you in the story, hey, every single person.
Oh yeah,
in this
they have
map
those villages. Yeah, I forgot.
I got tricked. This is the first time Tuxedo Man watched me. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the house. Someone's alive in this house. Like, I wonder what cool loot. And a bunch of corrupted burst out of the house, and I'm like, wait, but they're supposed to give us good things always for going to houses. I love that they played with expectations.
And there's like no reward for that either. It's just a pure trolling. If you go into the village, then they just you get 3 pretty powerful enemies for your trouble. Good gameplay story integration. I don't know if that's ever been done in Fire Emblem before, where it's like if you visit a village, there's like just nothing but enemies in there and you're punished for it.
Yeah. I haven't seen that before. I haven't seen it where they're like, hey, like, we told you don't go to the villages, and you went to the villages.
Also, it's really difficult with all the wolf reinforcements on this one. Like, they love those wolf boys in this chapter, and it really gives you a hard time, and it really incentivizes you to do it quickly. But Mavir is really holed up there in his, like, little castle of horses that he's built for himself.
Is the way I learned, both times I played this map, I've kind of cheesed it by putting all of my units down the middle and waiting for him to come to us. I think that's a totally valid way to play the map, and I think it's a really fun way to play the map. I think I just am a big fan of choke points. You create a 3-person choke point, and you either you can use fog, you can use fire. Marnie and Mavir will come to you. They'll come with all their cast, so it still is very tough gameplay, like from a gameplay standpoint, but you are actively bringing them forth, and you're fighting in the small little subsection of the screen, like right in the center. There's only a few spaces for you to maneuver, and I think it's a pretty fun way to fight.
Do you have to still do you just warp them in? Because you have to get off the boat still.
I'm right in front of the boat, and they'll come to me.
So you just get off the boat from the sides and then work your way up the bridge?
Yes. I work right to the middle of the bridge, and I just stand there, and I'm like, all right, not dealing with miasma. They'll come on over, and they do come on over.
There are, I guess, the thing else is cool about this map is there's multiple ways to beat it too. I also would rate this map an A tier. I think it's really good. It's really hard. It's also very engage, the way that you have to use the tile or create flame tiles to get rid of miasma. I don't think miasma's in any other Fire Emblem, so it's a very engaged thing that you have to deal with.
Yeah, but here it's miasma's so scary with the minus defense, the minus everything.
So I would put this one in A. It is very challenging, and I could see people being angry that it's in A tier because it's so brutal.
I put an A. I put an easy A because I was like, it's brutal, but it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun, and it's tense. It's so tense that Mavir could send his horse boys in to destroy you at any moment.
Yeah.
All right, so we are down to 1, 2, 3, 4,
Sign is fire.
6,
Yeah, we actually put
7.
most of our maps in here, above average. We're most of them are cooking. Most of them are cooking something.
And speaking of which, we have. Wait, who's starting first this one? I don't remember. Oh, this is chapter 20, so it's you're going first.
Yeah. Oh, this is
This is
appears out of
Griss's
the
hide and
sky
seek.
to shank you.
Yeah.
I like this map. Especially when you first play it, it's very surprising seeing Griss come all the way down and be like, I love
It's
pain.
extremely
He's just like,
surprising.
and then they have an entrap staff user in the middle, who if you're not careful will be like, gotcha, whatever Garen does, you're my child now. He'll just grab your unit and they'll get like shanked by
You
5
are my
mages.
child now.
You're my child now. This is a Fog of War, if I remember correctly. Is this a Fog of War?
Yes.
I think that this is overall a fun map. It's a B tier map to me. It's not like game defining, but I think it has so many surprises in it that it keeps you on your toes. And right near the boss is like a full army of wolf knights.
Oh god, yeah.
They're ready to fire.
I would probably agree that it's a B tier. I like that it's possible to cheese it because this map on your first playthrough is so scary. You don't know what's happening. It's Griss's hide and go seek. He's coming out of the darkness to blast your weakest unit. It's kind of like Zephyr in Chapter 17, where it's like you have to be so careful that none of your units are like that. If you count the damage of Griss's Warp Ragnarok and whoever they're fighting on enemy phase, then they'll die. It's really scary to have to play around that. Fortunately, you do have the Time Crystal, so you can at least play around it a little bit with the Time Crystal. I do feel like we were talking about before, the Time Crystal makes Fog of War maps much less obnoxious than they would be otherwise. It's fun that you can cheese it. I like that you can cheese it. So, because Griss, if you just light a torch or use Micaiah's Shine, you can find him where he's hiding. He'll hide in like the bottom right corner sometimes at the very beginning of the map after he's blasted you once. And then if you can take off a life bar, then he'll stop his nonsense.
He'll just retreat, bless you. He'll just if you could just take off a life bar, especially if you know where he's gonna come in, he's just forced to go all the way to the back. He's like, alright, no more hide and seek. I'm waiting for you to come to me.
But then you still have to do the whole chapter, which is pretty goddamn hard, especially because it's Fog of War, and like you were saying, there are some gorillas in the mist that are waiting to beat the crap out of you, because they're scary enemies in the mist.
Yeah.
And also... sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, there's also 4 treasures in this map.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. The treasure is so valuable, and, it's so tough to get it all.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there's another rescue staff in this one.
A brave bow, a secret book. Those are some cool treasures.
Yeah, especially the rescue staff. You really want to get that. And yeah, you gotta have a mixture of pushing forward, but then it's also a Fog of War chapter, so you're like, I'm scared. So yeah, I would agree, B tier for this one. It's hard to put, because it does feel ever so slightly unfair, because the enemies can see you, but you can't see them, which is just the thing that they do in all the Fire Emblem Fog of War chapters, which feels unfair. But they don't have a rewind, so I guess it balances itself out. I'm going to put this right beside the other Fog of War.
The biggest difference why you and I are rating Fog of War as higher in this game than we probably would for other games is because we have the rewinds. So nothing feels strange. You're like, oh, an archer was hiding right next to my Pegasus. Okay, this is something I noticed. You like calling Pegasus Knights and Wyverns birds. I just think that's deeply amusing.
They're all birds. They have wings. I guess because I've played the Radiance games so much and there's so many birds in there that I just call them all birds, and then it just sort of translates over to the other games. There's actual birds, the Lagoos, and I'm just like, well, they're all kind of birds, aren't they?
Topologically, I don't remember what the word is. Topologically, if they got wings, they're a bird. You're like, I see wings, bird.
It's a bird.
Okay, where would we rank this map? Are we thinking B tier?
Yeah, I put it in B tier. I put it next to the other Fog of War map with the first one that you do.
Oh, I love that. I was like, yeah, I think it goes right about where the other Fog of War map is.
Okay.
Alright, you go first.
Chapter 21. So, we get another warning at the beginning of this chapter. Hey, this is going to be something serious is going to happen in this chapter. You're going to have to do 2 in a row, so prepare yourself. And you are like, oh, I've seen this whole song and dance before. So you prepare yourself, and this time, and you're like, they wouldn't take all my emblems away again, would they? They wouldn't do it again.
Never.
And not on this chapter, of course, but on the next one. But anyway, this chapter is so hectic. I do like this one. I think it's crazy. It's so, like, you always feel like you've got to get to Vale as quickly as possible. There's, like, never-ending reinforcements, which I think in this particular instance are fair, because the never-ending ones only start arriving once you are basically in Vale's throne room. So you're, like, kind of already mostly there. Like, I think once you cross a certain threshold, it's like, okay, now it's time for the never-ending ones. And you're already, like, far enough in that it feels a little more fair than perhaps another chapter that's coming up with never-ending reinforcements. But yeah, it feels like, narratively, it feels really, really, like, dramatic, and this is where the music changes again. You've got the intense prep music, you've got a new player phase theme that you are hearing for the first time. It really feels like the stakes have risen. And the chapter really reflects that too, because it's just like, but then you have to fight goddamn Zephia and Gris again, because they just won't die. But
I think you pull the same bosses in. They're like, we made 4 bosses for this whole game, and we're gonna use
it sucks
them.
because it sucks because they all so many of them aren't threatening. Like, Zephia is always pretty threatening, but Gris is almost never threatening. Marnie is almost never threatening. Mavir is only threatening when he has that warp staff. And it's like, they're just, why are they just so incessant on using these particular bosses? I guess because they don't want to, like, make new character models or whatever. I don't know. But change their classes or something. Like, make Zephia and Gris experiment with their classes. They could even make a joke about it.
Switch it up on us. Be like, oh my god, Zephia's got Roy now we gotta kill her 4 times if she has revival.
True, they could experiment with their emblems too. Like, they're always using the same emblems.
DLC actually did a good job of letting us experiment a little bit with them in, like, different classes, or, like, not different classes, like, with different emblems and stuff.
And then also, I think Vale is very threatening in this map, because she won't leave her little dodge palace. So you have to figure out how to, like, consistently hit her.
Which is dodge, or plus so much avoid.
Yeah, she has Marth, who is very dodgy as well.
Yeah. I would say about this map, I was like, why on God's green earth do we have this many reinforcements? This map.
There are a lot, for sure.
Yeah. It's an active race to the top against the reinforcements. I remember playing this live on stream, and I'm like, oh my god, I cannot sit here and be like, go to the sides, fight things. It is about moving as fast as possible to the top, which I remember feeling, like, really excited about, and I felt really proud after playing it, which is, if a Fire Emblem game can make you feel proud about this, I think that's, like, a good map design. You are really, like, incentivized to not turtle this map.
Yeah.
And things, like, from the back, as soon as Vale goes down, you're like, big sense of relief.
I think that the emblem pools on this map are a trap. I think that they were deliberately designed to lure you out to get them, because that's exactly where the reinforcements come from.
There's one thing I like about Engage as a whole that a lot of other games don't do. You can't warp skip most of these chapters in the way that, because bosses have their revival stones, you have to usually play it the way the devs at least parse it in. Once you get Micaiah...
Until you get Micaiah, I was going to say, yeah, then you can do some real warp skipping shenanigans.
But, like, I think because bosses have these, like, stones, a lot more of the maps, you're going to have to find, like, the intended ways to play, or, like, you can cheese it a little bit, but, like, you have to be aware that the boss won't go down in one hit. You can't just have, like, one really strong unit.
Yeah, and Vale on her dodge tile, too, it requires, like, quite a bit of setup to kill. You've got to have people there to, like, nerf her with, like, Draconic Hex, and then maybe poison her a few times.
I had, like, a Wolf Knight have to use Draconic Hex, my Lear had Draconic... I'm like, alright, everybody pile on, someone poison her so she takes a little bit more damage.
Yeah.
So you know it's like a really fun boss, I think.
And also, she summons more of the big lizards from the right and the left as soon as you enter her zone. Yeah, it's like absolutely crazy. I do think, I mean, usually I mean, as we'll talk about later when we get to them, the maps with a shitload of reinforcements, generally I don't like, but I do think that the endless reinforcements of this one were deployed well, and I think that they did a good job. Congratulations, Intelligent Systems. Because they deployed them late into the map to really punish you for not going fast.
Right. Different things. Sometimes maps that get too many reinforcements, the implication is that you have to fight off all the reinforcements, versus here, the implication is do not fight these reinforcements.
Yeah, just run. You just gotta run, yeah.
Armor Knight legs will take you. I get my Armor Knight the boots so we can keep up with everyone else. I'm like, we're sprinting. I would give this
You give your Armor Knights boots? That's hilarious.
Yeah, I gave Louis boots. He was one of my most useful members of my team.
Imagine Louis with boots and Sigurd. He just like is Mr. Worldwide. So I mean, I would rate this map either high, like super high B or low A. I would put it in A personally, but I would be all right with B as well. It feels very exciting to. This map really feels like a race. Like you gotta get to the end as fast as possible.
Bottom A. I would do bottom A.
Okay.
I'm also kind of incentivized to like stop making our B list. I don't want our B list to ever reach 3 full lines, so let's do A.
We'll see how it fleshes out anyway. We can't let the data distract us from reality.
Fine. Do you think this is an A? I think this is an A map though. Like I do think it's different than the other maps in that it feels like the objective is different, and I like the diversity in maps.
It's also like
really with that.
I was talking about it before, but I think the map is also bolstered like by the events of the story, and it really feels like things are happening, things are going down, and boy, are they ever about to go down in the next chapter, story-wise.
Yeah. All right. This next chapter, I think it's not like it's unoriginal. I'm like, oh, we've seen this before. Like it didn't have the same impact as the first time we got all of our emblems taken away. There are very unique mechanics, like having to go to every single side, collect the emblems. I think it has some very like unique objectives. It doesn't have that same oomph factor that it did in chapter 10. However, I still think it's a very fun map. I think it's a very doable map, especially splitting your units in half, having half the side take on the emblems, half the side take on the other emblems. I think it's like a fair map, especially for them taking away your emblems, and it's like it's a fun map to play. Once again, you don't have your time crystal, so it's a little frustrating. If you die, you gotta start.
Do you not have your time crystal in this one? I don't even remember that.
Wait. Let me look at this.
I know that you don't have the emblems, but do you also not have the? I'm trying to think of, because like I know Alir dies, but then they come back. I feel like, so this is just me jumping ahead here, but I do feel like for me this map is a little bit of missed potential. Like a lot more could have been done to make it feel like it is part of the story that's happening. Like I think that Alir shouldn't have even been playable in this map. It should have been Vale as the main character for this one, and then
I like that suggestion a lot. Okay, yeah.
Because you're basically going through the same thing of, oh, we've lost all the emblems again, and now we have to collect it, except this time we actually have to get them back manually. And Alir dies in the story, and I think it would have been cool if Vale got a chance to like be the main character for a chapter, and she had to collect the rest of the emblems and, say the incantations to bring them back, to really feel like the stakes are getting higher and higher in the story. The main character's dead, temporarily. And it kind of just feels like sloppy seconds from last chapter and also chapter 11. Because this map also has a lot of reinforcements in it. And there is that feeling of panic because you don't have your reliable emblems. And it is cool that now you have, like, because in chapter 11, you have quite a smaller set of like units and capabilities that those units have. Whereas here in chapter 22, you've got a full team of boys and girls that you've been working on for like the whole game. So now that none of them have emblems, you're like, okay, well, what do we got? What do we got with our guys that we can do without any of these emblems?
Like it that it's like a near endgame checkpoint to be like, hey, how strong are your units without the emblems? Like it makes you double check how much have I been relying on the emblems. Another thing I think that's funny that this map does is if you try to milk it for all its XP, they start sending in reinforcements with a special ability that doesn't give you any when you kill them. And I laughed when I saw that. I was like, oh, I love like sucking up all the XP from a map. I'm like, what do you mean they have? I don't remember what it's
Void
called.
Curse.
What curse?
Void Curse, yeah.
Void Curse. Yeah. I really like your suggestion because I think plot-wise, I was like, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Aaliyah dies, and then there's
That's an understatement. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, she plays exactly the same on this map. So if they kept Aaliyah, I would have wanted her powers to change to be more like dead Aaliyah-like. And if she isn't on this map,
and when Vale brings her back, she should be all red. Why can't you play as all red Alear? I feel like their outfit looks so cool when they're all red, and it looks so much better than their regular outfit.
Or them. Sorry, I know some people play as male Alear. In my mind, all the Fire Emblem protagonists are female because I always play the women. But did you play as male Alear?
Typically, although my last run I was female Alear because I wanted to like do a ponytail run where she was a Grey Knight. Because you can make female Alear have a ponytail if she goes into certain classes. And I was like...
Yeah.
So, Great Knight it was.
Yeah.
And she was not the best unit as a Great Knight. She was alright. But it was my, like, maddening no DLC playthrough, so she certainly struggled a little bit more than she would have otherwise.
I can imagine. She, for me, is a dodge tank, so I can't even imagine putting her into the Great Knight class. But... I do understand it from a fashion standpoint. In the thumbnail,
yes, it's important.
Like, this is how I feel like her design could have looked. I think the ponytail is like the right move for her hair.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We must put a ponytail on Alear.
Must put a ponytail on Alear. Where do we want to rank this chapter? See, it's actually, oh man, maybe it's like high C, or you think low B?
I would say low B. It's still, like, it's tough. It still provides challenge. I don't think it's boring. It demands your attention. So I would probably say low B. It just feels kind of like a missed opportunity more than anything. I would put it probably, because it is tough. I'm going to put it mid-low B. So I mean, I've heard a lot of people say they hate Chapter 23. I think it's not that bad. I actually quite like it. I think that it's very difficult, for sure. The fact that they gave so many of those enemies freeze staves in a map where there is constant bombardment from like volcanoes coming down, and there's just so many enemies that you have to deal with on top of all of the freeze staff. Like, I don't know what they are. They're like high priests or martial masters, but they sure have a lot of freeze staffs. So I really appreciate Chapter 23's difficulty, though it is perhaps overtuned in some places. Like the amount of stuff you have to be considering at all times, like like freeze staffs, volcanoes coming, blasting rocks on you, very dangerous enemies that have a mixture of magic and physical weaponry, so you really have to be careful about who you're sending in to deal with them. It's tough for sure, but I do think it is like fair enough. Like, it doesn't feel like it's that unfair, aside from maybe the fact when they start sending in like the reinforcements, and then you're like, okay guys, let's cool it here. And also, you'll never guess who the boss is.
It's a different duo. Usually it's Marnie and Mavir. This one is Zephyr and Gris. But no, you're totally right. I'm like, again.
But we had.
The last map we see.
Finally, they die. Oh my god. And boy, do they ever die.
Of credit to this map for being brave enough to finally kill off Zephyr and Gris. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Engage's problem is that should have been in the story beforehand. Like, the same thing happens with Marnie, where she's like throwing death flags left and right before she's about to die on the boat, where she's like, oh, I was a sad kid. I had a tough childhood, and then the Black Fang took me in. Actually, no, that's not the Black Fang. It's, what are they called in this game? The Four Winds? The Four Hounds? The Winds are the good versions. Yeah, like, they could have put all that death dialogue that Gris and Zephia have into the story. They didn't have to do it after they're dying and they're out of the story.
Moment that they start, like, Marty really started giving her backstory, I'm like, oh no, her fate is sealed.
Yeah, she's dead. She's a goner. As if she shouldn't have died already. You have to fight them so many times.
We heard, like, the DLC, or we got, like, a new version, because I feel like we didn't get to engage with the Four Hounds enough, so I think the DLC did grant us letting us do that, but in Maddening, we can't even use them.
Yeah. Well, if you get them at a certain point... Oh, you're talking about... I thought you're talking about, like, in the DLC.
Yeah, in the DLC, it's hard to use them. I think in the main game, you can probably use them.
Yeah, they're very useful in the main game, except Madeline. I don't know how to use her. She feels like another Jade to me, where I'm like, I don't know how to make you good. I like Madeline, too. The absolute 180 of Marnie to Madeline is amazing. Like, I can't stand Marnie, and I really like Madeline.
Praise King, I take it. That was her character, like, description.
She has a praise kink, yeah, perhaps.
Alright, for chapter 3, what I would say is, I like this chapter as well, and I think a lot of people don't like this chapter. I think you have to be very, very aware of, like, oh my god, where are reinforcements coming from? Where are the volcanic bombs going to come next? I think, see, what I also like is if people really don't like this chapter, you use the Lin emblem and you shoot Zephia or Gris from halfway across the map and they'll come to you. It's a very valid way to skip this chapter if you don't like it.
They do come to you, but it's super dangerous to do that because then they aggro a bunch of other guys too.
Right, so if you feel like you can take that on, then only you should do it. I like this chapter though. You're like weaving your way, you're weaving your two groups through very thin corridors. You're like balancing off reinforcements. I love the thematic lava. Like, what'd you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just replying to Gerpender here. I'll say it in just a second. Continue what you were saying.
Sure. Like every game has their one like Mario World 7 like Bowser lava
Lava level, yeah. It's true. It's contractually obligated to have a lava level.
Exactly. They had a desert level, they gotta have a lava level. So I like this lava level. I think it's like one of my favorite maps. I would probably be willing to put it in like B tier.
Yeah.
As with everything else.
it's a pretty solid B tier.
Yeah.
Alright, so chapter 24.
Uh-huh. So I think this one I start I like this map. This map is hard. You have to get up to a Lear in 20 turns, or like you automatically lose this map. And constantly in one of 3 slots, wind is blowing back at you. So I think part of the fun of this map is really trying to figure out like, okay, I need to be changing this set of units into another slot in order for them not to get blown back. So it's a constant balance of where you're placing your units, and reinforcements are hounding you at like every turn. And I think part of the joy of this map is being like, okay, when is finally a good time for me to warp my units to the boss? Like, when do I feel safe enough in this wind map? It can get a little frustrating with the wind blowing you like all the way back to the start, but if you're really good about placing your units behind like those big rocks, keeping them like in the right lines, you can avoid that. I just think it does, like, the avalanches do a really good job of directing you as the player while giving you enough agency to still be able to avoid it.
Yeah, I think I would agree for sure. I like this map too. It's tense. It's another one that's novel. It's, I think, the only one where you have a time limit to beat the map, although the reinforcements in other maps kind of act as their own like natural time limit. But this one, I mean, I think it's a little bit trivialized by the fact that if you have like a covert unit with Lynn, then they can just snipe a Lear from like 14 kilometers away and lure them to you. But you still have to make the call of when is the moment to do that.
The map you start and you snipe them, you gotta be playing actively and be like, all right, here's the right time. Sorry, keep going.
But yeah, the map is designed in such a way that there are plenty of like nooks and crannies you can hide in to avoid the avalanches. They let you know, like sometimes I always say modern FE, but what do you call? I guess classic. Classic FE. A lot of times in certain situations, the game will not tell you a lot of critical information that I sometimes thinks that people who have played these games over and over again will forget that, like, oh, you know, the game doesn't tell you that this boss will or will not move the way that like modern FE does. It offers a lot of conveniences, and it'll tell you modern FE or Engage in this instance tells you, hey, it's going to be this amount of turns when the avalanche is going to come, and you have it'll be alternating between the three paths. So it's very fair in that way that it tells you exactly when the avalanche is going to come and what you can do to avoid it. So I like that. And yeah, it's the enemies on this map are so beefy. Like, this is end game. These are like end game enemies now. I remember seeing enemies with 80 attack on this map. So yeah, they are majorly beefy. The only thing I think that it loses points for is the fact that you can just draw a Lear to you super early if you have a covert unit with Lynn. So you can sort of cheese it that way, but a Lear still has to get to you. And I've never done it that way. But so I don't know if that also like aggroes all of the units on the map. Because sometimes if you aggro the boss, so many other units will be like, oh, let's go. So yeah, I do like it for those reasons. Let me see what I'm thinking probably, I would put this in A tier myself. Or low A, high B, that's where I'm thinking.
Low A, I can absolutely do that. Because I remember part of I didn't even think about that. You're right, a lot of old Fire Emblem games will jump scare you. This one is giving you all of the necessary information. It's like, hey, we're like in 3, 2, 1, you're gonna get hit by an avalanche. Versus I feel like some of the old games, all of a sudden someone would like warp kill you, and you're like, wait,
yeah,
I'm not getting any information. Or sometimes they give very like subtle information, like in Awakening there's a map where you go up a tree, and all of a sudden combined with Autoswear.
The same turn reinforcements.
Yes, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, that's the thing I think that is so what's the word? Commendable about Engage until we get to the DLC. That it is a remarkably fair game. And until we get to the next map as well. I fucking hate the next map. But overall...
This is 24.
Yeah, Chapter 24 was the Avalanche one. So yeah, overall, I think that Engage, while it is pretty, I would say it's well, with the DLC now, it's hard to say where it would rank on toughness in the Fire Emblem pantheon. I think that the DLC makes it pretty easy to trivialize a lot of it, but without the DLC, I would say it's pretty solid on the toughness. And it's also so fair, which is not something you can say for a lot of Fire Emblems. So yeah, I really respect that about Engage until we get to the DLC. But yeah, that's for our next discussion. For now, we have 2 more maps. And, well, I was just praising Engage's fairness, and now we get to this map. I hate this map. This is my least favorite. This is my least favorite map in the base game.
You're joking. Okay, you go first. You tell me why, then I'll tell you why I like this map.
Do you like it because you can warp skip it?
Oh fuck. Oh shoot. Yeah, not because I can warp skip it. Here, I'll tell you why I like it. I don't play it in the way it's intended, but I don't warp skip it either. I think that's like very fun middle ground, but it requires not doing this map the way it's intended. But I think you go first.
Do you? I'm just trying to think of what you do. Do you warp everyone over to the other side at the beginning?
Everyone to one open the other door, I snipe him to hell. So that side of the map, reinforcements just like pile up, and the game has a reinforcement limit. So at some point, because there's so many enemies on, like, let's say I go on the right side, then I lock the
It
left
has
side
a
of the map. They're all
reinforcement limit.
left side.
Well, I sure didn't hit it when I did this map. God damn. Yeah. I guess maybe I also have a personal vendetta against this map because it was the one that killed my Iron Man. And I was...
I saw a replay of that.
It was just miserable. It took so long, and it was just so drawn out and horrible. And yeah, I'm never not gonna warp skip this map for the rest of my life. Because yeah, I just think like we were you know, Engage and I, we had such a good thing going where I was like, it's so fair. You know, how balanced is this game? And then we get to this map, and they're like, if you aren't keeping up at an absolute breakneck pace, you will be overwhelmed by the reinforcements and killed in horrible fashion. I think that the reinforcements come way too fast and way too soon on this map for it to be good. Like, it's just unfair how fast and how frequent the reinforcements are. It's almost like they're daring you to warp skip it. I mean, and maybe that's part of the design, is like, how can we warp skip this map? But I hate this map. It would be my least favorite one in the base game. And also, it's funny that like Lumera is up there shooting lasers at you as well as a bonus part of this map. Sometimes I don't even remember that she does that because her lasers feel like pretty inconsequential. Like, they're not very strong. Mommy's laser house.
Add another element to avoid on this map, I think.
Yeah, it's just I can't stand it. Maybe I should just get over the fact that it killed my Iron Man.
I think so. I definitely can understand if you play this map the way it's intended by the devs. It is not an enjoyable map. Like, your units are split, and then you sort of have just too many reinforcements for half of your army to handle. This map is so fun when played. You warp half of your units to one side of the map, and then you carve your way up, and then you like kill the thief. This map rewards you. I don't say for being smart. It rewards you for being able to read a wiki.
So clearly that's an evidence of good design. You read the wiki and then you know. Well, I mean, it's also like I think that the strategy you're talking about, where you're not like literally trying to warp skipping, it's also like pretty dangerous because you have to have like smart use of Micaiah for sure. You got to like warp rescue. You got to rewarp probably with Micaiah.
Right.
And then you're like in so much danger once you like land in that center part if you were to just like try to actually warp skip it. I mean, I just think that it's like, it could have been a great map if the reinforcements didn't come so fast and so soon. And in such high numbers. That's the thing that really kills it. Like, you could even, like, it's, so this is going to be foreshadowing for the next, like, time we do this, because I feel like this problem blossoms into a full-blown mega issue in the, like, Fell Xenologue DLC. But, like, it feels like in this map, you are just bending over backwards, trying all the strategies you can to, like, survive, just to make it to another turn. This is how I felt in my Iron Man. I was like, oh, you know, I might actually make it through this. You know, we're pulling some major plays here. We hit some good crits. We're doing, like, galaxy brain strategies. And then the game was like, oh yeah, well, here's 10 more reinforcements of the same enemy type that you've been fighting the whole time, and we can just do that. And it just feels so lazy. And it's like, this isn't even difficulty. This is just you pressing the reinforce button. It just feels like
fun map design that like challenges you, or like you see the enemies, but if you just like you just keep getting spammed by reinforcements, that's especially frustrating in an Iron Man run where you're like, wait, this is like unmanageable. That I imagine is pretty scary. I wouldn't put this in banished tier. I would on my own I'd probably put this in C tier, but I'm gonna guess your team F, which averages us.
We could put it in D tier, I suppose. I mean, I do respect that it can be warp skipped. It's not unbeatable. It's just like, I guess I just feel the laziness of the developers coming through when, like, you work so hard to, like, put forth these excellent strategies And then the developers are like, 5 more of the same reinforcement that you just fought last turn, and here's another 5 on the next turn, and here's another 5 of the exact same, and it's like, oh, come on, like, at least diversify your difficulty a little bit. And boy, is that even more of a problem when we get to the Fell Xenologues. Holy shit. But for now, it's really only a problem in this map.
Yeah. Chapter 26. This is the ultimate, like, anime finale type thing. I actually do really like this map. So the first part of it is I don't know a single person who doesn't warp skip the first part of this map.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
There's nobody who
it's so...
Yeah.
It's so... He's welcoming you with open arms as your father. He's like, please, come to me. Let me be warp skipped.
It's warp skip right to me. And there's like too many guys in front of him, and you are very incentivized to get just to him. But the dragon, that's where the real joy of this map comes in. I actually think the mechanics where you have to defeat like the emblems of the path, and then you like open his shield down and take him out a little bit. I think we're fun. I think though, this map, especially in Maddening, you're not supposed to do it in the way that the devs intended. You're not supposed to take out all 4 of them and have a turn to hit the dragon. My strategy is always take out 2 to 3 of the emblems and then beat down the dragon slowly.
Yeah. Or, I mean, to just build on that, like, take out, like, 3 of them, and then take out the last one, and then, like, strategically do it so that it's on the very beginning of player phase where you take out the last of his 4 guardians, and then you can just, like, one-turn him. Like, take out all of his life in one go on one player phase. If you've got, like, everybody juiced up with their emblems, it's so possible to just, like, one-turn him.
I think it's one of those bosses that the longer you let this fight go on, the more of a disadvantage.
Yeah, for sure. I have never seen the full 12 emblems on any playthrough.
Sure. Tuxedo Man wrote, I really wish to be able to see all the emblems talk to the villains from their games. Me too. I think that's so hard to do, especially because if you're not cycling through all the emblems, it's hard to bring up each unit and their emblem to like go see them. And then once you get DLC emblems, you're like, oh well, some of these Leaf is never gonna get to talk to. I don't know who the villain of Fire Emblem 5 is. Whoever the villain of 5 is.
But yeah, it's tough to get them to talk to their respective guys, especially when the boss is dead before the like half of them are summoned.
Yeah, I do like this about the map. It's a final showing of your strength. It is because it's not multiple enemies, it is one big bad guy. It feels like what the Formontis fight should have been. You're like, alright, I'm putting on my attacks, I'm putting on my poisons. All of my units are putting forth every little bit of chip damage that they absolutely can. They punish you for, there's some players who like are like, most of my damage will always be chain attacks. They're like, 10% chance your chain attacks hits.
Yeah.
But it's like fun. They give you like the possibility that it might hit. I think it's just a really fun final showing of like your strength and all together with all your units.
I mostly agree. I think it's a little easy for a final chapter. But I do like, I really wish that the rest of Engage was like the build-up to this final chapter, where Alir's like, protect us, emblem of genealogy, care for us, emblem of beginnings, or I don't like to know the actual names, but you know, he calls them all out, they all do their poses. Like, as a Fire Emblem fan, as much as I was disappointed by Engage's story overall, that moment where he's like, fight on, emblem of radiance, reignite us, emblem of awakening. Oh, I got my juices flowing. I really wish the rest of Engage's story could have been that, like, fun and cheesy and more of a, like, not taking itself so seriously. The melodrama of most of Engage's story just washes away once you get to that last one. And then Sombron starts talking about the Zero emblem, and you're like, dude, what are you fucking talking about? This is the end of the game. Have you ever seen... Now, this is a real... Huh?
What?
Oh, you were just talking about the Zero emblem. Have you ever seen... Okay, this is a real deviation now for a moment, but have you seen the musical Cats?
Songs from Cats. What about Cats?
So in Cats is all about a bunch of cats that show up and then introduce themselves and then die. And they tell you their life story and then either they leave or they are whisked away or they die. And it really feels like Engage's story took some notes from that, because it's just a bunch of guys like dying and then telling you their life story. And Sombron is no different. He does the same thing. He's like, and the Zero emblem. I have to find the Zero. I'm like, dude, the game's over.
It was my only friend. I'm like, I needed this information from the beginning.
Yeah.
The story could have been a lot better had it really leaned into its cheesiness. Like the moment it leaned into its cheesiness, whether intentional or unintentional, I thought the story then shined. Like Alcrest being like, oh, I'm gonna fall at your feet. So sorry, I like moments like that because it feels silly. I'm the 13th emblem, the fire emblem is peak for me.
It's so peak. Imagine if the whole game was as dumb as, I'm the 13th emblem? The fire emblem? Like, if it was more silly like that. And also, like, what if they really played up all of the caricatures that Fire Emblem is known for? Like, and not, like, anime caricatures, but, like, the archetypes. Like, the Commedia dell'arte archetypes of, like, you know, there's a Minerva, who's the red-headed, angry wyvern rider. There's the, like... the Board and Cord, who are like the two axe dudes at the beginning. There's the two Christmas Cavaliers at the beginning, like playing up all the classic archetypes of like what Fire Emblem is known for. Their units, like there's the, you know, like Vander is a good example. They could have used more people like Vander, who is like the quintessential Jagan. But this is all to say that I enjoyed...
references to older games, they didn't necessarily need to recreate her, but I definitely saw a couple archetypes. Like Vale being like, that's your old dragon with the voice.
Yeah, Vale, but Vale's played so straight and like, as much as I think Vale is cute when she's not her E-Vale self, like she's so precious. Some of the stuff that she says in the cinnamon roll, or I was thinking that she was a cinnamon roll. Some of the things she says in the Somniel where she's like, oh, well, you give her like one of those stones and she's like, I'm so happy I could cry. And I'm like, oh, precious baby.
Yeah.
But just like, it's so melodramatic what they do with her in the story, and
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's a couple characters that really stick out to me. Hortensia was like a really shiny point. I don't know if a lot of people are in agreement with this, but there's a few characters where it didn't feel like their backstory was just like, boom, trauma dumping. I need a friend. Like Hortensia's story felt to me very realistic for like a little girl during war, and I was like,
yeah.
To engage in capable of good writing. Sometimes.
I thought I would hate Hortensia, but I do agree that her, like, she is one of the more fleshed out characters. Ivy's probably, I think, the best character in the game in terms of like a writing standpoint. I like both of them as the two of them as sisters. They make a strong, like, they are a rare bright spot in Engage's writing.
Weak sisters. I think during the beginning of the game too, I'm just thinking storytelling wise, when Jaden's like, yo, brave divine dragon, we have to go fight, and Alir's like, no, let's run. I was like, peak story.
Yeah, we could have had more of that. That would have been fun to have more of that stuff. I was hoping that it would be more Engage is an unaware parody of itself. Whereas I wish it could have been more of like a fun parody of Fire Emblem, but instead it's a not fun parody of itself, which is sad.
About it truly is. The maps though, like that. Yeah, it's realistic right now. We would put this, I would say, high B. Do you feel like it's a high B?
Yes, I was gonna say I do like. This whole thing started because this is the last map, and I feel like it is. If more of the game was like this, where it's like a send up of the old games, and it's very like Power Rangers. Someone described it as earlier, where I love the like care for us, emblem of echoes, etc., where they summon them all. That was delicious stuff. Really, really delicious. But in terms of the map.
Very cute.
In terms of the map, I think it is a little easy for a final map because of the strategy that you described earlier, where, yeah, you just wear down 3 of his guardians, or like kill 3 of his guardians, and then wear him down a little bit, and then kill the 4th one, and then just kill him before he can summon any more. It's too bad that that's like such a reliable strategy. because it is a pretty cool idea for a final map. People will complain that like, oh, the dark emblems all look exactly the same, but I mean, I can kind of understand not giving them full character models. Like, you only fight them once.
Actors for everyone, but like, I do wish I think Tuxedo Man said this too. I really wanted to see a lot of the dialogue for emblems talking to their villains. It's just hard to do all that in the final map.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, is the final map's too easy. Like, you can't see all the dialogue because the boss is long dead before you get to.
Alright, do we want to cover just DLC 6? As a treat, you and I,
As a treat.
It's time for Era or Grievances. Let's see where I can find it real quick. The DLC...
Well, we will certainly agree on... Okay, so my banished tier... I mean, we're assuming that this is going to go in banished. My banished tier had 5 maps in it, and 2 of them have been argued up to D tier. So I still have this one and 2 others that could make the banished tier. So...
Tell me about...
Fell Xenologue 6. I guess it's an even number, so you can start it off.
Oh my god, okay. I'm pulling it up as we speak. I have so much to say about Fell Xenologue 6. So, I've been forced to listen to that song on loop every time
10
I
hours.
try to run that level. What'd you say?
10 hours of listening to that song.
You've done 10 hours? I can imagine why.
That's how long it took me
like,
to beat it.
Gets into you at some point. You're like, I'm like living and breathing, and then that's like the top voice part with like the voice, and then it picks up all of a sudden again. Okay, but my main complaint isn't with the music, although my chat is repeating the music at me right now. It's the maps. So for starters, they give you, if you're playing on Madden, completely wrong advice. You're like, I think everyone should go to the top left and fight Alfred first, but you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, that'll ruin your whole playthrough.
The other thing I don't like is they don't let you modify your, like, the units that they give you. So you can't modify Zephyr or Madeline or whatever his name is, not Grist.
Greggy.
A lot of those units near completely useless in that map.
So I feel like, just to interject for a quick second, I feel like they have their very niche uses. Like, Madeline will never be a good combat unit, but she is a good wall. She's a good physical wall, at least. Gregory is good with Byleth, to just pair him with Byleth, so he's useful that way. And then Celestia was actually quite useful for me on the final map, because I gave her Sigurd.
Oh, I can imagine with Sigurd. So the thing I like is you can give them emblems, and they're able to like use them. You're able to use the emblems pretty well. Like if it's an emblem with utility, I'm like, you take Violet, so you dance. As long as they have like good utilities. I gave Camila, I'm like, this is all good. I think when it comes to the maps, what I did not like is they gave you one turn to be like, we are destroying the ground here. You better get your units off. There were times where I just couldn't move my units.
Yeah, you just get trapped. I was just like, I was thinking like, I have a manifesto on this chapter that it's too bad that we're going into it now, because I could rant about this for like half an hour. But yes, continue.
It feels like, and then he gets even more revival stones with every single unit that he saw, so he gets tougher and tougher as the map goes. It is like arms race, getting away from him, going like carving your way to the top of the map, trying not to burn too many of those divine pulses, because you will burn divine pulses. See, I put this in banished tier, but that doesn't mean I thought it was boring. I thought
it doesn't have to be boring if it's in banished.
I thought this map was weirdly, sometimes it feels horrible, but sometimes it feels fun to play. Like, it is probably amongst one of the most challenging Fire Emblem experiences I've had, and I feel really good about it when you ultimately do it. But I remember one time I got all the way up to the dragon, and then I got to it, and I'm like, I don't have a single unit that can do damage on him.
That happened to me too.
Happened to you? Yeah. Like, and then you realize, oh my god, I gotta do the 4 hours like all over again.
That's the thing that I think is the critical flaw of this map, is how long it takes and how much time it asks you to commit to it, because it has so many things about it that are unpredictable and you will not be able to react in time and save your playthrough. Like, it's basically a roguelike. Like, and it's too bad because it really does feel like at the heart of it there is a cool idea here. It's just bogged down by so much so I think that one of the major problems with it is the fact that you can't customize your units well enough to be equipped for the map. Like, you can't use the units that you've been building throughout the game because they're in the wrong class. Because the game is like, oh, you wanted like Penette as a warrior? Too bad, she's a berserker. You wanted Citrine as a warrior? Too bad, she's a sage. So they take away a lot of your fun by forcing your units that you've been using into classes that they are useless in.
I built a lot of strong units, but I'm like, you can use Ana as a berserker, but that was an issue with like DLC in general, and I think not just.
Yes,
like,
a lot of the problems with Fel Xenologue 6 are the problems with Fel Xenologue in general. Like, for example, every time you game over, you have to re-equip Celestia and Marnie or Madeline and Gregory and Nell because you can't equip them with weapons in the inventory screen. Why did they not allow you to just do it in the inventory screen? You have to manually go over to Alir and equip them at the beginning of every single one of your playthroughs. No, Gurpinder, what I'm saying here is that so the characters that you get in the Fel Xenologue are your characters. They have the same skills, but they aren't in the class that you raised them. So they may have skills that aren't even useful in the new class that they have. So, like, the ones that the game gives you that are just DLC units, those ones will always be the same class, and you can play around like what you can do with them. But the classes that are the bulk of your army are ones that you have been using throughout the whole game, but now the game is like, oh, well, if you reclassed anybody, then you won't be able to use them in the class that they're in. So almost all of the time that means they're going to be worse, except for my Martial Master Lyndon, who was a project that I had on my last Maddening run, who turned out so ungodly bad that it was a blessing that they were like, here, now he's a sage again. He's fixed.
A unit into a class where when they put him in the DLC, he was like blessedly better. I've heard that actually about. I've heard people try to make Chloe a martial master. Actually, Chloe makes a really good martial master. Apparently, John does not make a good martial master. Every game I've used John, I'm like, he's gonna grow up so good. He's got amazing growth. I put Star Spear on him and everything, and he's just average.
Yeah.
But you're British. You should be, I don't know, colonize something.
Go, be British. Take over the world.
No, British.
Yeah, so the fact that I think that it asks so much time of you is why I hate that last map so much, because it does have a kernel of like being something really cool, like Fire Emblem roguelike. That sounds pretty cool. Like, they give you a certain amount of tools to deal with what you have, and you are like just up against really untenable odds, but there's no saving, I guess, and I guess you can say that what I take from each failed playthrough, you take knowledge from each failed playthrough into the next one so that you won't lose in the same spot. But then it runs into the aggravating problem of the thing I was talking about before, where you are just pulling out all the stops. You've got all of the like buildup of knowledge from your playthroughs across all of Engage, in the DLC, in the main game. You've gone through 5 other Fel Xenologues, and you're like, you've got all the knowledge you need, but then in return, what does the game give you? Fucking 6 more bird reinforcements, and here's another 6, and here's another 6, and would you believe it, we've got 6 more for you. And that's all they do. They are just so lazy, and it feels so bad because you're like, oh, you worked so hard to get so far in that Fel Xenologue, and then the game doesn't match you at the level that you're playing at. It's just lazy and boring and just keeps spamming the same goddamn wyvern reinforcements and those horrible big birds that shoot miasma.
A little bit more of a positive spin about just part, because when you mentioned every playthrough teaches you something different, you get a little further each time. In my first playthrough, I couldn't even get past the first day. Like,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, actually, turn, I'm gonna sink this day. Like, I'm gonna sink the ground amount. I'm like, none of my units can escape, and all of my
And
units.
everybody dies. And it's also like, it's cool that it's like, so if you are thinking of playing Triangle Strategy, then your experience in the Fell Xenologue will be very helpful, because that's kind of the whole game of Triangle Strategy, is figuring out when is the good time to sacrifice your units, because nobody's permadeath.
Right.
So, I
Classic
mean,
mode, but always.
yeah, it's cool, and Triangle Strategy is very punishing on hard mode, so you will definitely have to sacrifice units to like survive the map. And it is cool that Fire Emblem is experimenting with that. It's just like, I really think that they sort of shot themselves in the foot with the implementation. As cool of an idea as it is, and like also just chasing that boss around Tarnation across like 5 platforms is it's a very.
He flies. Oh yeah.
And he
Well,
eats
one thing I don't
the
like,
royals.
You can't rush this map. Like, you have to
Yeah.
go at the pace of the dragon, or they'll like bombard you with reinforcements. So you can't ever be like, I'm gonna play this map a little faster next time. It is still gonna take you 4 hours. You are going at
Yeah,
the pace
it's just
of
so long, and that's another, like, I never want to play that map again, just if only because of how long it is. Like, what is this, I mean, aside from the people that like LTC it and do it on the first turn, I bet you can't beat that map in under 2 hours if you are playing normally.
I think so. I would agree with that. I saw a woman online who did an LTC, beat it in one singular turn. It was like a reprisal plus strategy using a player. Very cool, but I'm like, I'm gonna take my 4 hours and do it a quote unquote reliable way. I was actually thinking, as a weird little treat to myself after playing it on Madden, I was thinking of bumping it down to hard and playing it like sometimes during this month just for sheer fun, just to feel how different the map feels. I haven't played any of Engage on hard, so I would be really interested to know just like what it feels like, especially a map that gave me so much trouble. Getting to crush it in my hands would feel good. It would be like my
I wonder if you could kill Rafal before he gets to the like final resting place. Actually, I don't think you can, because I remember beating it on normal on my, because I was like, I just want the DLC characters to do a playthrough with them, and I don't want to beat this on maddening. So on my first go around, like on my second playthrough, I just beat it on normal, and I remember I couldn't kill Rafal until the end. But maybe I just sucked.
The units up the whole map and go around type thing.
Yeah, you still had to go all the way around. And it's just like the fact, like you were saying, the fact that they have that other pathway with Alfred there, just a little Alfred sitting there spamming his Hector emblem. It's so enticing to go up there because you're like, oh, that's kind of close to the final spot, you know, and Alfred's not that intimidating. And then you do, and then the game is like, surprise, here's 15 reinforcements forever.
Okay, so we definitely put this one in vanished tier. I feel like before we end stream, we should, I'm a very optimistic person, we should give like our final takeaways of this.
Of the main game? Well, I feel like the main game is incomplete without the emblem paralogs, and I do really like a lot of them. But we could talk about we could just talk about the new maps. Yeah, you are, Ryan.
I mean, we can like takeaways from like whatever we've done thus far, like how we feel about like the ranking. Because I feel like we've definitely decided that Engage is like top heavy in a good way. A lot of the maps are above average, with a lot of them like exceeding and becoming the meta. I think we definitely both agreed. Even before I like looked at these maps, I was like chapter 11 and chapter 17, some of the peak maps because of like how excellently they like story gameplay integrate, the way that the maps make you feel. Like Engage gave me a lot of like heart racing moments, which I love in a Fire Emblem game. I don't think in Shadow Dragon in any of the maps I felt that way.
I love Shadow Dragon. Maybe you didn't play on a hard enough difficulty. Then you can get swarmed by same turn reinforcements all over again. Uh,
Blissed as a Shadow Dragon. I will give it that.
yeah, I agree for sure that Engage has maps that are like going to be renowned across the series, like Chapter 10 Conquest is.
Yes.
Especially Chapter 17, and to a lesser extent, I do think Chapter 10 as well, just because of how it is like kicks you in the seeds and is like, there goes your emblems. Now do it on your own. But yeah, Chapter 17 is super cool, and I mean, even the ones that we have in A tier, I really like all those maps, either for like how creative they are or how well tightly designed they are. And even I mean, we dropped a few from my A tier into B tier, which probably happened to you too. Like
Yeah, I would say so. When we were discussing like the concepts of these maps, when we were discussing the concept of Engage, the way I sell it to people is like the story is not that good, but the gameplay is really fun. And just looking at the way we stratified our maps, I'm like, yeah, other than like 5 or 6 maps out of 26 maps.
And we haven't even gotten to we're only halfway done basically.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the paralogs will probably also fall in like B or above because it's based off of like the best maps from previous games.
Yeah, well, they are. I mean, we haven't yet talked about the Lin map, but just as a preface, I think that the map that the Lin map is based on is horrible, and boy did they ever fix it. But we'll talk about that next time.
Next time we'll be scrapping about that map because I'm not like that Lin map, but we'll get to that next time. For everyone that came to our collaboration, thank you so much. If you want to give any feedback in the Discord, I will absolutely take feedback. And Sir Martin, I hope you have a great night. This is my very first collab, and it was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, it was like almost my first as well. I did a Castlevania race with Gerpender once, was my first collab, but this was a much longer endeavor for sure. I mean, you can beat Castlevania in half an hour. So yeah, thanks for collaborating. I'm looking forward to part 2 of this, where we can really get into there's so many emblem maps to talk about here. And thank you for the shout out as well. It's been real, everybody.
It's been real.
Until part 2.